Hey everyone, welcome to the DeRosa Insiders Happy Hour. Once again, we're back
Woo!
for another happy hour. Matt, are you drinking again this week? Are you
I
back with
am.
us?
I'm
All
having a
right.
beverage. I'm
Matt's
having a
finished your
beverage, and
2 week.
I'm happy. I'm
How
happy
was
for that.
your 2 week cleanse? Do you feel good?
Lost 5 pounds. Lost 5 pounds.
Holy cow.
Yep. And I felt good. Just it's good to reboot.
Yeah.
It's good to reboot and recheck yourself healthily, and
Mhm.
and also to kind of check our vices and things like that in life. So it was a good check in, a good way to just I exercised a little bit more.
Good.
Ate super healthy. No booze or other substances or anything like that. And I feel good. You
Awesome.
know, and now I'm happy to be here having
What do we
having
have
a little
today?
glass of something.
What do we
I
have?
got a glass of Bullet Bourbon,
Can't go wrong with
brewed,
that.
proudly brewed in Kentucky. Let's see where it's. I don't know if it says Lexington. I know their distillery is not too far. Louisville. They have Louisville on the bottle. That's okay. We like Louisville too.
We're going to have to check them out too next time we're out there.
Yeah, we will. What are you having?
Eagle Rare again. So this is
Eagle
from our
Rare.
friends at Buffalo Trace.
Yep.
And love it. Love it. So
Yeah,
we
man.
got to actually go out there and see those guys and how they do everything. So maybe we'll be back. I don't know. Whenever we start traveling again, we got to get back there.
Whenever we do, and I am looking forward to getting back. But I hear Kentucky's going to be opening back up soon. From what I understand from talking to the folks out there, they're going to be running horse races again soon. They're going to be doing a lot of great stuff. I think the world is about to, I say roll the dice, but to begin to start opening up. I don't know if we're getting back to normal anytime soon, but I think things are going to start giving a shot at opening, and I'm excited for that. Although I've also enjoyed a bit of this. I've been making the best of it and enjoying myself. How about you?
Yeah, it's been fun to be home. I mean, as challenging as it is, like yesterday was a nice warm day, and I just took the afternoon and ran around outside with my son. Like we both we kicked our shoes off, ran around barefoot, got in some dirt and mud, and just had a good time. So
what a good question.
At the office, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah, what a good question that we can ask during this happy hour of all of our awesome guests, which we need to get into telling everybody who is going to be. What's up, Ryan Sully? Knob Creek. Me and Knob Creek say hello. Knob Creek's good stuff too, man. So a good question, and our audience should type this in too, is what is the best thing that's happened to you because of or during COVID-19? Okay, I know there's and I am not downplaying the bad stuff that's happened. I get there's folks that have lost relatives over this thing. There's folks who have gotten sick themselves over this thing, right? I get that. I'm not downplaying that, but I don't want to focus on that because it's a happy hour, right?
Happy.
Yeah. So I want to tie in what is the best thing that's happened to you because of or during COVID-19. Justin just said he got some time outside. You're acknowledging time with your family, right?
Absolutely.
For me, I've gotten a lot of time to reflect. I've gotten a lot of time to think about what I want to direct our company towards and things that I want to get ourselves into more in the future and things like that. So I've gotten a lot of time to think, and I've been able to get more into proactive think mode versus reactive, put out fires, deal with the day-to-day, be on conference calls, that kind of thing. So I still got to do all that. But because of COVID, I've been able to be a little more proactive and thinking long-term. So I am grateful for that time that I've been able to get. So
that's great.
We're going to ask our guests. And if you guys are watching, I want to hear, man, type in foot ahead, got to spend time with family, man. I'm glad to hear that. I think a lot of us did. And as much as it can be challenging sometimes, if you got young kids, foot ahead, at the end of the day, it also can be very rewarding the time you've had with family. So good stuff, man. I'm glad to hear that.
Herve's already chatting me on the private chat. He cannot wait to come share with us. I see him giving me a little
I know. Yeah.
So he's ready to share with us.
I cannot wait to get Herve on this call, man. I love Herve's laugh. I love. I've come to become addicted to Herve Francois' laugh, so I can't wait to get him going.
Before we get Herve and the rest of the guys on, let's talk about DeRosa Insiders real quick for anyone.
What's our sponsor for today? Yeah, we gotta acknowledge our sponsor. We gotta acknowledge who this is brought to you by, right? DeRosa Insiders is a concept that Justin and I came up with. It's a phenomenal community that's online that if you guys are not members of it, you need to be. And here's why. We're going to talk today with the DeRosa apartment building team, right? These are folks that make apartment building investing possible with us. There are the 4 quadrants of investing in apartment buildings that are going to be on this call. Now, We're going to go through those quadrants in a second, but what Insiders does is Insiders gives you guys direct access to pick the brains of our team. We've had several members of our team on the Insiders already. We're going to have the rest of them on too, and you're going to get inside the brains of what makes a successful apartment building company work. And so that's what Insiders gives. It gives the opportunity to pick my brain. I'm the money in the quadrant. Justin's the hammer. So you get a chance to pick Justin's brain. Ask questions like, what happens after we close? Because a lot of people celebrate, I just bought an apartment building. Well, guess what? The work just started. Congratulations. Now you bought yourself a lot to do and a lot of following up and everything like that. Justin proudly does that for our team. So the rest of our team members carry out other functions and other angles of apartment buildings, which we're going to talk about, right, in a fun manner today. But on Insiders, you get access to these folks to pick their brains and talk to them on a regular basis about what it takes to carry that side of the business forward. Additionally, you get the inside look at a day-to-day apartment building company and a thriving real estate company to hear all the different stuff from job site walks to property walkthroughs. We're going to start. We've got the ask to do a property manager conference call on DeRosa Insiders. As long as we can get a property manager to agree to it, we will record it and broadcast it on Insiders. No problem. We're grateful to do that for you guys. No problem. We want to give you guys what we want. So what else, Justin? What else is Insiders?
Listen, the whole point is that all that stuff that sort of gets glossed over on podcasts or on YouTube, like things that we can't exactly put on the public YouTube channel, is happening behind closed doors, but we're showing that off inside this group. So not only do we have access to our team, but we want to help our members figure out which member of the team are they? Like what is their superpower and how can they help others? How can they join a team? How can they figure out what they're good at? And so we actually have a course that we're building as we go with videos on every topic. So every team member here that you're going to see has contributed or will contribute. We have a ton of videos. I think we have like 20 hours of video already up there, and that's either interviews or just behind the scenes, like walking through the property. On Monday, this coming Monday, we have James Wilcox. I see James is commenting here about Ryan's Knob Creek. James is going to do a live tour of our property in Lexington, Cross Keys, and Woodridge. And so we have a bunch of units that that are renovated, that are in process and about to come on the market. And
this is Monday.
This coming Monday. So if you
guys have time to sign up right now.
Monday, exactly.
Yeah.
And you can see this with us. And so this is me doing a quality check on our unit renovations without even having to be there. And so we're going to talk about who our team members are, how we work with them, what they're seeing, and he's going to broadcast live from his phone.
Can't wait to see that.
And we're going to do a walkthrough on our renovated units. It's really good stuff.
To see that, man. That's going to be awesome. That's going to be great. And that's a great site. Just built a playground out there. DeRosa Group believes in transforming lives through real estate. So we're just building real communities that people want to be proud of where they live is what we want to show off to you guys. So we cannot wait to show you guys off that. Now you guys get the inside look at this stuff. And DeRosa Insiders cost a whopping $25 a month. You guys probably spend more than that on a lot of other things that don't educate you. DeRosa Insiders will educate you and give you inside looks for $25 a month. But you can text the word DeRosa to 66866. That is 66866 right there at the bottom of your screen. Just pick up your cell phone right now and send the text. It's the word DeRosa. Try us out for $1. If you don't get value, then that's okay. It's $1. It's only $1 investment. But join for $1 by texting DeRosa to the word 66866 right now.
We're going to 100x your value. We already have. There's such great feedback. I'm so encouraged by the feedback that we're already getting from our members. And we built this community for the people that want to be there. And so we're growing and adapting. And so we're getting feedback from and polling. And so if people are on the call or in the group and they want a certain type of information, well, you want to go hear from Herve about acquisitions and what kind of deals we're looking at or what markets, guess what? I'm going to have Herve on there and we're going to go talk about that. And so it's very fluid. It's very interactive. And we're just creating tons of content that people want.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we hope that you guys come to join us there. It's the word DeRosa to 66866, or you can just go to DeRosaGroup.com/insiders to hear more about it too. We can put that in the comment feed as well. So come join us. Hope to see you guys there. Facebook is blowing up with this thing. A few comments here. I got I got Hone Tai, and listen, I'm repeating after him. He's wanting to do a show in the future called The Asian and the Persuasion. Okay, and that's great. Stacey Parrish, the only drink for today is bourbon. That's what it's going to be, bourbon with a side of bourbon, and we're going to cut that with a little bit of bourbon today. That is my drink of choice, my drink of recommendation. And yes, guys, if you guys are watching the recording of this or not watching live, we are broadcasting this on our Facebook page also at DeRosaGroup.com or Facebook.com/DeRosa Group. So just go to Facebook.com/DeRosa Group if you guys want to watch this recording. Happy hours last week. If you want to watch other videos we have out there, including a great video I shot with Justin Fraser about how we invested $80 and are making $915 a month on an $80 investment.
A month.
Right? A month. Amazing. Right. Check that out. That video deserves some attention. Give it some love. So
I just want to say, if you're watching here, please shout us out. Quentin, Umang, Kathleen, Anna, Eric, you guys are all watching. I see you guys on Facebook. Please say hello. Let us know where you're watching from. If you guys are on YouTube, tons of people on YouTube, leave us a comment. Let us know what's going on. Say hello. Let us know what you're drinking. And we want this to be interactive. We're really
I want to hear what they're drinking and what they're grateful that they got over the last couple of months, man. Give me something. Give me what you're drinking and what you can just boil it down and what you're grateful for, or just something great that you got out of, through this whole COVID-19 process. So
absolutely.
Yeah, man. Cool. All right. So we can start bringing our guests on, guys. Come to join us at Insiders by texting the word DeRosa to 66866. Hope to see you there. Now let's get our guests on. Before we do that, I'll explain to what we're talking. When I say the quadrants, I'm going to explain something. Nobody's great at everything. An apartment building buying and ownership and management is a team sport. There's a bunch of people I know that own single family homes and small rentals and stuff like that on their own. And you can navigate small rentals and that type of business on your own. That's okay. If you guys want to be involved in larger multifamily assets, there are different skill sets, different personalities, different backgrounds, different educations, different everything that it takes to be a part of a multifamily team. Okay, team with a T. Now, as I said, I'm the money for my team. I'm able to raise capital. I wrote the book Raising Private Capital for BiggerPockets.com, and I'm the voice of what we do to those that have the desire to invest with us. I put that out there. That's what I do. We can talk about the money as we go on along in this conversation, but that's one part of the conversation. There are 3 other seats on the bus. Now, the other seats on the bus are as follows. There's someone who goes out and finds the deal, that analyzes markets and finds the right opportunities for us to invest in by networking with brokers, by kicking doors in, by not taking no for an answer, by banging the head on the door until the door opens. And that person is called the hunter. Okay. You're going to meet our hunter. A hunter is awesome. The next person behind that, and we get a few of these, the next person behind the hunter is the person that takes that opportunity that is the deal and analyzes it, chews it up, splits it apart, takes it apart, puts it back together, finds a way to make that opportunity work, hopefully. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. We're not going to force a square peg into a round hole, but that person takes that deal and turns it into a business plan, right? And that business plan is produced by someone who's called the brain. Okay. Now that brain is someone who takes the deal, like I said, finds the right financing angle, finds the right rental analysis, finds the right reno that we need to do, and in collaboration with the rest of the team, builds the business plan. That's the brain. Okay. Now you got a deal with a team, with an analysis that works and a business plan that works for that deal. What are you going to do? You got to fund it. That's where the money comes in. The money comes in and helps assemble the debt, helps assemble the equity, the investors, and puts the dollars and cents together. Now you got a deal. Now you're off and running. Now you're making money, right? No, you're not making money yet because you don't have the accountability to bring that business plan to fruition. All you got is a concept and some money. That equals failure without drive and motivation and the push and the daily follow through to bring that business plan into execution and to monetize it, right? The person that steps in and takes that business plan and that deal and brings it up into and puts some water and some sunshine on the seed that's been planted is called the hammer, right? That hammer is this guy this guy, Justin Fraser. And in layman, well, in terms of our business, that role is actually called the asset manager. Okay. And that asset manager, for what we do and for what most apartment building deals have to have, they require a lot of construction. So in our business, we also have a construction manager who's able to browbeat the contractors, assemble submissions to our bank, and to be the right hand and the partner of the asset manager, and to compare, pursue, and be the hammer team. Right. So we've got a hammer team. You guys are going to get to meet all these people. You cannot go away. Pour yourself a tall glass of something and sit and enjoy the company of our team. Now, we're all good friends too, so there's probably going to be a lot of laughs and a lot of good timing here, but we're also going to try and introduce you guys to the inside inner workings of what it takes to run this team. So you guys are going to meet our brain, our hammer, and our hunter right now. Okay. So who do you think we should start with?
Why don't we bring on Mr. Ben Risser?
Brisser.
Yeah.
The Risser. He's going to turn his camera on, though, if we're going to bring him on. There he is.
There he is.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben.
If Ben doesn't have a cocktail in front of him, you got to put him back until he goes to get a cocktail.
Ben, what are we drinking?
I got a Dogfish Head Sea Quench Ale. It's a Stephanie Sour.
Very nice. Very nice.
Nice.
Welcome to the happy hour.
Drinking the bougie stuff, man. I love it. Right.
And I don't know if we ever had a drink together, so cheers, buddy. Glad to.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's at least been a long while. If that maybe it was one of our last face-to-face meetings in Trenton when maybe it was the what's that room where you pay to lock yourself in a room to figure out how to get out?
We did that. We did that. Everybody had a blast except for Ben. That day.
I was just like,
we went to an escape. We did the escape room for Christmas, and Ben was like, "Oh, this isn't working. I don't like this." Ben was very analytical of the escape room.
I know. I need 3 hours and a tablet and pencil. And
but you know what? If there's one person,
Ben could have built that room. He could have designed the entire thing. He could have designed it and built it. Being an experience of it, there was too many unknowns for Ben's computing power for him to deal with this. Too many variables, you know.
Yeah, I'm too systematic, and what really pays off in those rooms is just like being somebody who's a little bit impulsive, willing to try different things, and I'm a little bit too, I guess, analytical and calculated to get out of that room in any reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, well, that is why we call you the brain, right?
Nice.
I guess so.
Cool. So Ben, tell us a big question, right? Give us something that you're grateful for, aka something great that came out of COVID-19, because we're trying to celebrate, trying to be happy, trying to talk about good stuff, man. So, and by the way, those of you guys watching, I'm not getting enough comments, man. It's unacceptable. I want to see some comments from people that are grateful about something. I got a ton of people watching and no comments. So get your fingers on the keyboard. They work, okay? Type in and tell us something you're grateful for that came up because of this whole Corona crazy that's happened. And Ben, tell us, what are you grateful for that came up because of Corona crazy?
Well, I think it's similar to what Justin said. I think, my relationship with my kids has grown, even though I thought that it would be ridiculously stressful, and certainly it has those moments, but just spending time with my kids, really getting to see their personalities develop, and getting to know them better, them being around more. So I think it's the relationship with the kids has been a blessing.
That's awesome.
It has. Great. I would agree with that, and that's something that a lot of parents would share. There's been some times where I want to call DIFUS and have them come and pick up the abandoned children on the street corner in front of my home. But there's been those days. But for the most part, I've really enjoyed the FaceTime I've gotten with my kids, which has been a ton.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, cool. It was pretty cool. We got to see my youngest first steps. So we were home for that. Awesome. Normally, I feel like that would have been daycare or something, but we were just sitting playing, and he walked from my wife to me, and that was it. So that was awesome. So hey, it can be tough, but there's some really great silver linings here too. So really, really cool.
Nice stuff. So Ben, can you guys hear me in the green room?
I think they can. Yeah, they're nodding. Yep.
Okay, good. I want to ask Ben, because I did this big spiel about the different seats on the bus, and I'll introduce you briefly. I mean, Ben's pretty much the right hand of the operations of our apartment building ownership team. He does a lot of the behind the scenes operations and building of systems and networks and things like that to make everything work. You're like the business brain. We've got several folks that are the apartment building brain and whatnot, but you and I got started in underwriting a deal called DeRosa Capital 8, which we renamed Douglas Square on Hope Mills down in North Carolina. So what's been your experience in that 4-quadrant model that I talked about of the hunter, the brain, the money, and the hammer? Have you seen that come up in our company?
Well, I think, like you said, I started out, underwriting deals, and I think most of the time they were deals that you sourced. Somehow through your network, you just get a lot of deal flow, and we developed a screening process. So there's that acquisition side. And I think, once we took ownership of Douglas Square, and we were talking about scaling, and I was looking at, at how I was faring given the demands of asset management, what Justin's doing now, I was doing initially, and we had a desire to grow. And so I kind of, I guess, had to think about kind of like the operations side of the business. I think there's the brain side of the business that is related to underwriting the deal and such. And then I don't know if you've got a specific name for this, Matt, but there's also the brain side of just all the back office operations, the systems, the integrations. How do you work with lenders? How do you get?
Let's call it the business brain.
Yeah. And
there's the deal brain and the business. We got 2 deal brains on this call, and you've been a deal brain many, many times, but you're also the business brain, like being all the way up here, looking at the operation from 10,000 feet. And just looking all the way up here and saying, okay, how can I make this talk to this? And how can I hold this whole system accountable?
Yeah.
And that's been a lot of what you do.
Yeah. And every quadrant, every part needs the other part. It's just like every part of your body needs the other part to function as a whole. And you can have great deal finders, you can have great fundraisers, but if you don't have a great asset manager who can execute the business plan, who was part of the business plan before you closed, you're setting yourself up for disaster. If you don't have the back office that can handle all the financial transactions, the bookkeeping, the cash management, all of that type of stuff, you can have a great asset manager, you can have a great acquisitions team, you can have a great fundraiser, but if you can't get that back office stuff done, you're going to fail too. So everybody needs everyone.
Yeah, they do.
And I think that's really the point of this call that we're doing, and a lot of the presentation that Matt's been giving is that we all do need each other, because I saw how it was working with the 2 of you, and you guys had some really great accomplishments, and I don't want to take anything away from that, but I also saw how much more productive you were when I was able to come in and take some things off of Ben's plate and off of Matt's plate, and then when Dave was able to come in and support us on construction, and when Kevin and Herve and Matt came in, and all these guys they're taking those things off your plate that allows you to focus on what you're really good at. There's a nice circle of what you're good at and what you enjoy doing. Yeah. And with the way this team is working, we're all able to play in that middle space here where we're good at what we're doing and we enjoy what we're doing because we have a very specific defined role on our team.
Yep.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm very grateful that, we decided to take on a construction manager and asset manager when we did, because I look at all you guys are doing now with the 3 assets we have, and I would have to multiply myself by 3 or 4 to do everything that you guys are doing. And I think it felt maybe a bit premature at the time when we were staffing up, but in hindsight, it was good, because we'd be resource-wise, we'd be way in over our head by now with 3 assets if we didn't have Dave and Justin on board.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. So speaking of which, man, we got to get let's start filling this party up, man. Let's get a few more folks on here. We have some laughs and talk some shop and everything like that. So, who next, man? A little roulette. What do you got? By the way, you can only we're gonna have to rotate somebody in and out.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, you figure that out. Hey.
No surprise.
That was awesome. Yeah. What you just did.
I mean, you didn't even announce it, man. I mean,
let's don't do that again. Next time you bring somebody else on, Justin, don't tell him you're going to do it.
That was good.
Don't tell him you're going to do it. Just pop him on the screen. That's
you got to be ready. You got to be ready at any moment. You never know what I'm going to do.
I may not be prepared, but I'm always ready. Sorry.
I love that. Herve Francois, why don't you introduce everybody? Introduce yourself to everybody here.
Thanks very much. Well, for the sip of a happy hour, it's
what do you got there? What is that?
Daniel's Tennessee whiskey honey. The honey flavored Jack. Oh, it's a little sweetness to the spice.
I've had that. It's a little on the sweet side for me, but I've had that, and that is really good. You get some cojones drinking that stuff straight, man. I love it. My dad drank a stuff called Drambuie, which is pretty much Scotch. Yes, it's the Scotch version of that.
Oh, okay.
Your dad's hardcore. I like it. I got
my dad's hardcore. Yeah, my dad would just mainline that stuff, man. Right. So, Herve, introduce yourself to the audience, man.
Listen, things are great, guys. Thanks for having me on today. I was just thinking about it as we've been all quarantined, and here we're in early May. It's been about a year since I joined the DeRosa group, if you guys can remember. It was April of last year, and Matt, you and I, we were seeing each other, even Justin, at a lot of the RIA meetings in Princeton. We got to talking one Christmas party, and Matt, I think obviously DeRosa group was expanding, and we started, discussing about how maybe some of my background could help out in the manner that DeRosa group was expanding. Introduced me to Ben, and I think Ben wanted me to, kind of like wear a lot of hats and whatnot. So we had to stream. Ben
will put you to work, man. Ben will put you to work. Ben will be like, hey, here you go.
Yeah.
I got something for you.
I analyzed every city in this country.
This is what our weekly conference call is going to be. This is what our tasks expect you to be. This is where you can go and get those tasks fixed. This is how I'm going to hold you accountable.
That's it.
I started doing the R-squared analysis on cities, comparing industries.
Call me if you need something.
Correlation. But listen, man, it's been great. My background, Matt, you mentioned in the past 23-year plus career on Wall Street, the past 3 years in real estate, doing things kind of on my own, which again is kind of how we met at the Princeton RIA group. And so glad to be part of the DeRosa group, because I was in the midst of myself looking to expand more and more into multifamily. I wanted to get my feet wet, but I knew there was a big educational process on it. So, obviously I was reading a bunch of stuff on Bigger Pockets podcasts and webinars, videos, and so on and so forth. A lot of great information on there. But, we're all local. Right. So that kind of helped out because your office is not too far away from where I live. Yeah. So, it made, kind of easy access. And again, us bumping into each other, a lot of the RIA meetings that Justin was running and stuff like that. So I think it was kind of like a match made in heaven. I needed you guys needed me. And so I was like, here we are. So it kind of where next, we're in Kentucky, sharing beds in a Airbnb.
Whoa. What happened?
Hang on, man. I don't remember all that.
Rated G.
I think at least got your own bed. Now we can go rated. We can go PG-13 if you want.
I don't think we can talk about that.
Right.
Yeah, that was supposed to be like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Then.
That's right.
Yes. But we were working.
Very nice.
Always
very
working.
Nice.
Always working.
Working.
If I can compliment Herve, I think Herve's analytics of markets and Herve's knowledge of marketplaces has been phenomenal and everything like that. And I think that you've hate to say this straight, have kept us out of trouble in a few deals that showed up that looked pretty good. But Herve was like, hey, listen, this market's doing this. Just so you know, like this area was here, now it's here, and we see that it's going to be here. You know,
now noise the truck coming around the corner. Just get out the way.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example, right? We were going to buy a deal that was we won't talk about the deal, the broker or whatever, but we were going to do a deal in a college town. So for those of you guys that are watching, it's okay to do deals in college towns. We were fine with that. But what everybody figured out was that this college's enrollment had gone down like the last 3 years in a row. And that was a flag to me because like, hey, listen, that college is the biggest employer in the area. Right. Right. And I think that the enrollment's going down, which means that correlate that to their revenue stream. Right. Yes. That means their revenue, even if we didn't want to do student housing, even if we're not going to do college housing on that property, and that's okay that we weren't, because that's not the game that we play. That's a whole nother thing. And there's a whole nother outlet there. Can't wait to get Kevin Dean on the call because he can tell us about the difference between student housing and what's that? You better sit up in your chair, Kevin. Here we come. But at the end of the day, it's also about having the employees of these colleges housed in these units. So workforce housing near a college. And Herve got us out of that deal and said, hey, listen, this looks good, but we should not do this deal because the biggest employer in town is dropping what we believe to be the revenue. Right, Herve? I mean, that's and we did do the deal because of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The numbers, and the numbers look real interesting on it. The numbers look real interesting, and we were obviously looking at the historical numbers. But then once you start putting pen to paper and doing the pro forma, it's like, wait a minute, And again, like you said, it was a lot of the macro data that kind of scared us. Besides going into, there's an opportunity to lower expenses and raise rents and whatnot. It's like, let's not even turn that page. Let's just focus on the macro. And the macro was, that scared us. Scared us off. So, hey, listen, it's an important part. I realized the importance of having a hunter on the team. The deeper and deeper I got into it, because I think we realized, and Ben, we had the discussion when I first came on, that maybe that you guys were looking at, markets, in a lot of different areas, and it was time to really hone down and kind of get a little bit more laser focused into which areas of the Midwest, and probably even more so the Southeast, that we wanted to focus on, the Southeast that we wanted to focus on. And I think that's what we've been able to do, and, kind of narrow down the 5 markets. And so, but like you said, it's just, even during this crunch time, it's staying in front, calling and emailing and so on and so forth. And who knew that country was going to shut down right after the trip I made down to North Carolina back in February.
Yeah, but you still made those relationships and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've been staying in contact with them since.
We'll get back to that in a second, but I want to just throw out there something very important, because James Wilcox just threw out a great comment that we need to put out there up on the screen that says, Herve, are we getting lucky in Kentucky? In that. So are we getting lucky in Kentucky? James Wilcox wants to know. What are your thoughts, Herve, on that one?
Are we getting lucky in Kentucky? That question could be really sliced up in a lot of different ways. So
it's a happy hour. It's Friday afternoon, Herve.
That's how much of this you're having.
I've gotten semi-lucky in Kentucky in the past. Is that what he's talking about?
Right. Lucky has been like lucky as in deals and all those kinds of things.
Lucky, yes, we are getting lucky in regards to deals. Oh, absolutely, we're getting
deals. That's what we're talking about. Right,
we are getting lucky in Kentucky.
Right. Justin, it's time for team member roulette. Team member roulette, man. Team member on that note. Team member roulette. Let's all go. Ready?
Be careful who you ask. Careful who you ask.
Roulette. Do it. Bring them on. Who's gonna be?
You want me on?
Ah!
I was trying to time that perfectly, and it worked out.
You did great. You did great there.
I thought about it 2 seconds before you added me in, so that worked out.
Very nice. Very nice.
What's going on, everybody?
What's up, everybody? All right, everybody. This is the Kevin. You haven't heard about him. Here he is. Kevin, thank you so much for being here, man. Kevin can. This is our other brain. Ben Risser is our business brain, all the way up here, right? Look at the entire process from acquisition, from cradle to grave, talking about back end stuff of the entire business of a company. Kevin Dean is the man that when Herve finds a deal, his first call is to this man, is to Kevin Dean. And Kevin Dean jumps in and says, okay, let's take a step back. Look at the numbers, look at the financials. And Kevin is the underwriter of the deal. I cannot wait to get Kevin on Insiders so that our Insiders community, which is up around 80 people, right, Justin?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, 80 people cannot wait to pick this man's brain. You guys need to get into Insiders. What?
I'll be there eventually. Don't worry.
Yeah.
No, Kevin's
taking his time. It's all right.
Yeah, we'll get him there. We'll just schedule.
I like to lurk in the background. That's my thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that want to slice of Kevin right now. It's totally all right, you know.
All right.
And that. So Kevin, why don't we just brag on you for about 30 seconds? Justin, throw Kevin up on the screen. Justin,
Yes,
Kevin, tell us how awesome you are.
Hey, so I guess one interesting thing to talk about would be how I kind of got on the team. I could touch on that a bit. I basically
before we go there, what are you drinking?
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
What am I drinking?
What's in your hand?
Cloudy, baby. And actually, I'm glad you didn't add me before Herve or Ben because I had to go get number 2. So I'm working on that one right now.
There we go.
He's doing it right.
I'm cracking it open right now for you guys.
All right, we're 2 beer Kevin. I love it.
That's
the
right.
Performance looking good. The future looks bright.
The future looks good. Kevin, before you throw it back on, and I can talk behind the scenes. Kevin, before we go any further, what are you grateful for? Because that's come up through this whole thing, and I think we might not have gotten Herve's gratitude. So, Kevin, before we go any further, what are you grateful for right now?
So many things, and I'll preface it by saying there's obviously a ton of people who've been struggling, but when people call me and ask, how are you doing? How's everything going? I have to preface it with, I understand like people are struggling, but honestly, like the last 6 or so weeks have been so good. I got married about 8 months ago. And the first 6 months, I worked a ton and didn't really get to see my wife much. But the last few weeks, I mean, we're literally playing pickleball at lunch, So
Hello.
Yeah, so we're playing pickleball at lunch. I mean, that's fun. I've been able to hang out with her a ton. I just went on a backpacking trip. We did the whole state of Maryland in one weekend. That was amazing. We actually did have one guy drop out halfway through. He took an Uber home.
Was the bourbon guy?
Yeah. So the guy who
I knew it. I would have bet on that. I talked to Kevin offline. I've spent a few days on the Appalachian Trail myself, and Kevin was on the AT, and you told me that one of your friends wanted to fill his camel pack up full of bourbon,
which he did.
Which he did.
He did.
Oh no!
All it did was weigh him down. And
how long did he make it?
So he made it 27 miles, which is amazing. But
That's
his
impressive.
ankle started to absolutely kill him, and he was slowing us all down. So literally 27 miles in, we take a little water break, and we happen to be right next to a major road, and we see him on Uber, and he's checking Uber prices back home. And we didn't think he would actually pull the trigger, but he ended up pulling the trigger. So we've been calling him Uber for the last week.
There you go.
Uber's got to be his trail name.
Yeah, Uber is his trail name.
Must become his trail name.
He's Uber. But no, things have been great. COVID, I mean, I'm definitely trying to make the most out of it. I have been talking to Herve a little bit too much. We've been hunting all sorts of deals, but that you're talking about, Matt, I've been hearing that every day with Herve.
Yeah.
I actually ended up
there it is.
There it is. Drove about 20 multifamily assets last night in a market that I've been looking at for some time now. So definitely make the most out of this time.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. You guys have been busy. We've been under, believe it or not, during Corona Crazy, Herve and Kevin have been turning over a lot of deals, have been looking at a lot of opportunities. I mean, we haven't jumped on anything yet, but there's been a lot of opportunities out there. And I think that for those of you watching that think that right now that the world is on pause and people aren't doing business right now, you guys are going to miss a phenomenal opportunity to be involved in something, to get engaged in something. And that's why you guys got to check out Insiders, and because you can hear what we're up to as a community and everything like that, what we're doing on a daily basis. And like I said, Herve and Kevin they're turning over deals, man. There are not everything out there is a deal. There's not a crash. It's not blood in the streets, but there's still opportunities out there. On that. So
we're trying to get lucky in Kentucky.
Trying to get lucky in Kentucky.
Lucky in Kentucky.
Trying to get lucky in Kentucky.
Thank you, James Wilcox.
That one's gonna stick.
Cool. All right. Well, welcome, Kevin, man. Welcome. So let's see.
Gotta go back to Herve though. Herve missed his.
Herve.
What are you grateful for?
Listen, I know the happy hour, man, but I don't know how deep you want to go, man, but I know you've had a lot of things come up and everything like that. But in general, what are you grateful for that's come up through COVID?
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you. I mean, and I can definitely end this on a happy note. My wife did test positive for COVID-19, but she's okay. Mm-hmm. She's all good. She was quarantined for 3 weeks. Yes, indeed.
I'm glad she's okay, man.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. But I got to tell you what. Listen, now, obviously, it put her first, but what I got out of it, we grew closer through it. As husband and wife. You know, I mean, we've been cooped up in the house. You know, she was cooped in the house for 3 weeks, and even though she was on the other side of the door, so to speak, there was a lot of FaceTiming going on, and so on and so forth. So, you know, I think. You know, we got out of the, you know, rat on the wheel kind of lifestyle that we had been on before the pandemic broke out. And then we were just really able to start talking about what we wanted our future to look like, and, you know, life here in New Jersey, and maybe one day out, and so on and so forth. So, so that was good. I mean, it was conversations that we had that we probably would not have had if we did not go through this pandemic. So I would say that. That's been great. I've been exercising a whole heck of a lot more than I was before. I might even cancel my gym membership when this is all over with, because I've been doing so much at home. I was like, maybe I don't need a gym membership. So that's been great. I've been cooking a little bit more. I had to cook a little bit more when the wife was quarantined, so I picked up some culinary skills, a little bit of this and that. Yeah. I think I was doing pretty well. My sons may think otherwise, but, you know, who cares? They eat anything anyway. You know, like, when's mom going to get better? We need her to start the
When you cook, you get to decide, right? That's it.
That's right. You know? That's right. So, yeah, no, it's been good.
Herve, I can say the same thing on the cooking. I never thought I would have a ginger root. You ever seen those giant?
Yes.
I just learned how to cook Asian food over the last 2 weeks, and I have this giant ginger root that I'm slowly trying to work through. So I'm with you.
A reasonable sized root will take you a year. I used to
healthy
root around. It's great for you, but like all you need is a little bit.
All you need is a little bit.
The flavor of that stuff that'll blind you. So yeah, all you need is like a little, like just a little bit in your food. Yeah.
Guys, I want to jump in here real quick. We got Dawn Brennan from North Carolina watching, Christine Curry, Jason Yarusi, Brandon Israel. What up, Brandon? Dave Acosta. Hey, buddy. Jay Scott just tuned in, guys.
What up?
This is cool, man. We got a lot of people watching. Hello to everybody.
I'm going to give a few shout outs right there, right? First of all, Jason Yarusi, you rock, man. Good chatting with you earlier. And Brandon Israel, if you're watching right now, man, be aware. Justin and I are going to do a wholesalers corner on Friday happy hours, man. You, maybe Steve Chatto, maybe bring in a few other people, other wholesalers, and talk about how wholesalers are making it rain right now during Corona crazy. Cannot wait to get you on the line. Jay Scott was on a couple weeks ago. Thank you for watching, Jay Scott, too. So cool. You would do roulette?
We only got 2 left.
Here we go.
Nice haircut, man.
We got us a pen. That's a COVID-19 haircut right there. I appreciate it. That's a good looking thing, man. Hey, Matt, I need your razor. Because I'm 1980s right here.
Yeah. My kids did it.
Oh, you kids did it?
My kids did it.
That's awesome.
Nice. While you were sleeping.
What does the back look like, Matt? Is the back okay?
It's a mullet.
He doesn't know. It doesn't matter. They left it long. It's in a ponytail.
He hasn't seen it.
Ponytail.
You know,
I think it's Justin with Justin,
right?
Yeah.
Hasn't seen it yet.
Doesn't matter. So Matt is another brain in our operation. We look at a lot of deals. We've got a couple of different folks that are brains, and so Matt is the yet another brain on our team. He focuses on a lot of on smaller deals, say like 20 up to 80 units. And Matt and Herve look at a lot of stuff on that side too. So I'm grateful to have Matt on. Matt, why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself? But also before we get your introduction, why don't you tell everybody a gratitude that you've got that's due to that's come up due to this whole wacky stuff that we're in right now.
Besides your killer new haircut, because that's
your killer haircut.
That's got
because our picture. We got to update our photo. We got to update our photo of you now.
Yeah, like as you said, Matt. I look at the smaller multifamily properties and enjoy working with you guys and Herve. This period has been good, really. It's given me a time to just slow down in the evenings, and we've just had a lot more family time together. So it's been good to spend more time with the kids. I've got 3 kids, so it's only great to have more time just being able to step away from work and everything else and just being together as a family. watching movies, doing more game nights, and so on. But equally grateful for teachers as well, having to do the online learning gives a whole new extra gratitude for what the teachers do, and having to be with the kids day in and day out. I don't know how they cope with that.
How old are your kids?
16, 10, and 7.
Okay, cool. Who's the one that gives you the most hard time right now?
The 16-year-old.
Does that?
The 7-year-old when it comes to the schoolwork, because it's an all-day job with him to get him to do three subjects. He's rushing. So he just wants to get on to Fortnite, and because he's rushing so much, he ends up taking 10 times.
He wants to get on to Fortnite. I love that. Right. Get through homework so I can get to Fortnite. That's great. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Matt, thank you for being here, man. As I said, Matt does a lot of underwriting on deals, a lot of analysis. Matt's got a background in legal and finance. He brings a lot to the equation. I'm going to little twist here. So what I've done in a lot of environments is I've had take one person that knows someone really well, introduce another person, right? And then that way they kind of explain what their experience, their listening of that person, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Ben Risser to introduce Matt Wills, because Ben, I know you've had a lot of work. You've done a lot of work with Matt. I know you've interacted with him a lot. So if you can give us your best version of an introduction to Matt Wills, as if he has just won like the best award for what it is that he's done in the world. So keep it to 30 seconds or less. But can you introduce Matt Wills to our audience here and tell us about Matt's greatness?
So Matt's greatness, he's diverse. It's not just one thing. I would say he brings his legal background to bear, and just because there's so much about syndication that's legal, and having the instincts from that perspective, knowing how to construct all the agreements and documentation that's involved with the syndication, but also he's very astute on the underwriting side of things as well. So he's actually been involved in on the acquisition side, as well as he's been helping me a lot out on the high level business things related to operating agreements and just how we structure ourselves. So legal and acquisitions, man, he's great.
Absolutely cool. So thank you, Ben, and Matt. Great to have you here. Listen, before we bring in our final team member, we've got a great question from the audience, which I'm going to turn over to whoever wants to hop on this one. This could be Herve, this could be Kevin, this could be Matt. What is the best way to get into multi? Is it through a broker? So Herve, Matt, Kevin, do you believe that you have to use a broker to get into multi, and why or why not?
I'll jump in, and the other guys, I'm sure are going to have some value add stuff to speak to as well. I would say as helpful as it is to have a broker, there's no doubt that brokers have a place in all of this, right? I mean, we speak with brokers all of the time. You don't necessarily need to have a broker to start into multifamily. Now, again, this can be dependent upon the size of the multifamily that you're talking to, but there's certainly other ways to get into multifamily besides having a relationship or having to build a relationship with the brokers. And obviously, that's really just targeting the owners directly of that multifamily, especially if you're talking something less than 40 units, 50 units or something like that, where you reach out to them, whether it's going to be a marketing campaign, whether it's going to be literally knocking on doors, meeting them at RIA groups, and so on and so forth. So, it's the way we hunters think about it. It's one tool in the toolbox, right? When you go hunting, you don't go hunting with one tool. You go with many tools in your toolbox, right? So one of them could be just directly contacting the owners. The other, obviously, is building relationship with brokers. The others is building relationships with other multifamily brokers, sponsors, and so on and so forth. As you guys know, we're looking at a deal right now where I won't get into details about it, but specifically, one of the guys on our team was approached by the owner of a particular asset, and things like, hey, listen, you own a property not too far from mine. Would you be interested in purchasing mine? Right? I mean, and that just comes from the relationships, being in the area, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, You got to be out there. However you do, there's no magic wand that you can wave and saying, oh, I have this relationship, so because of that, I'm going to get a lot of multifamily deals. You've got to be out there, shaking hands, meeting people, talking to people face to face, over the phones, and so on and so forth. Being as proactive as possible with as many tools in the toolbox.
Herve, is it easier now? So we're all stuck in home right now, right?
Yeah.
Because you spent 3 days in North Carolina, and because you spent 3 days in Kentucky with us the last time we were all out there, is it at all easier to continue those relationships and to get a foothold on what's happening in those markets because you were actually there?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, simply for the fact that, we made that trip down to Kentucky. I made that trip down to North Carolina in February. I mean, now I have the brokers calling me up. I have the brokers emailing me, right? And I go out of my way. And listen, it's a relationship like anything else, right? You don't want to smother the person. You're not going to be calling them on a daily basis, but you put it in your calendar that you're going to reach out to them every 2 to 3 weeks, really, and remind them that, hey, we were out there, we went out, we had some coffee, we had lunch, we had drinks, whatever it may be, and what's going on in your backyard, what's going on in your neighborhood. Sometimes the conversation is just that versus, do you have anything that I could look at to potentially purchase and whatnot. And right now the brokers, they're real happy to hear from you, because when they hear from you, they know that you're engaged, right? That you still have the opportunity to go ahead and pull the trigger if you find something that kind of fits your criteria, and so on and so forth. It's a good time for buyers, but guess what? It's a good time for sellers too. So I'm not in Matt, you're a little closer to it than I am, right? But I am not of the camp that, you're going to be buying everything for a dime on the dollar right now.
Nope.
Kevin and I have been looking at deals where this is a pre-pandemic price. There's a lot of those. I said,
we've said that a lot.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
We've said that a lot. I mean, again,
Yes.
I work closely with Herve, Kevin, and Matt with regards to deals that come up. We kind of joke a little bit like, oh, that's a pre-Corona price, or it's a post-Corona price,
Right.
And that's to switching it over to Kevin. What do you think? I mean, Herve gave a great summary, but anything to add on if somebody like foot ahead here on YouTube is looking to get in, do you recommend that they start pursuing owners direct? And if so, how do they do that to get into multifamily?
Yeah. So the question was, is the best way to get into multi through a broker? So I don't know if it's the best way, but I would say it's the easiest way. And,
nice.
Yeah. So that's how I would answer that question. What I would say is the transactions I've been involved in have both been through a broker. So, my broker to non-broker ratio is 100% right now. But as Herve said, right now, a guy who's watching Dave Acosta, he actually got approached by a seller. So I'm not saying that it's not possible that you don't need a broker, but I think a lot of times brokers get kind of a bad rap because they're marketing that deal broadly. And when that deal is marketed broadly, there's a ton of competition, and supply and demand will drive prices up, right? So I totally understand, like, the ideal opportunity is one where you're the only bidder. But the reality is, the last few years, everybody has their eye on multifamily, and the best way to get in there is to go through a broker. And just to kind of talk brokers up a little bit, they do so much work. Herve and I just got sent a deal from a broker out of Charlotte. Similar story, a guy who hits us up all the time, and he's texting me, asking me how things are going, not even related to business. And that's just sort of a relationship we've built over time. A funny thing actually is that there's two brothers who both work for different companies, and they both transact in the same market. So Herve's got one brother, and I have
nice.
Yeah. So kind of keep that thing going. But these guys, given what's going on with coronavirus, put together like the most amazing drone marketing package I've ever seen before. They put a walkthrough for each type of unit on the property. So, I mean, that's saving, Herve a plane flight down there. And they're also identifying the opportunities that come up in the T12 that we would have found maybe eventually. But it's based on them actually going to the property, talking to the property manager, asking, hey, if you had $1 million, where would you put it? So, I mean, ideal, get a deal direct to seller. That's amazing. But I mean, I'll turn this back to you, Matt. if you had an opportunity to sell all your multifamily assets right now, would you go through a broker or would you go direct to owner, to buyer?
I go through a broker. Period. Broker all day long.
Yeah. So
done.
Yep. That's probably 90% of the deals that transact through a broker.
Well, interesting comment, right? Well, let's run with that for a second, because the reason why I would go with a broker is because they can get me the best price on the deal, right? But for DeRosa Capital 10, which I believe all you guys were involved in, right? Everybody, you were on the peripheral on that one, but at the end of the day, for DC 10, that was a broker transaction, but we were the only buyer. There was no bidding process. There was just, hey, if you can buy it for this, you can have it. And we even got it for a little bit less than what he was asking. And that's because the seller was slightly cantankerous and didn't want to, air quote, didn't want a bunch of people walking through his property, and wanted to do more of like a, just clean transaction, right? So there are times, and going all the way back to Foot Ahead's comment. So if you were marketing to owners direct, what you want to present, in my eyes, is that you can give them a easy transaction that's not going to require like 30, 40 parties of different groups walking through your property. Because if you go listen to the broker, they're going to do a ton of property tours. As I remember, the last couple of deals that we bought that were marketed broadly through a broker, they had like for DeRosa Capital 9, they had something like 230 people download the offering memorandum and like 30 property tours, and they got over 15 offers, okay, on the property. Now, as a seller, that's great to get 15 offers, but if you're not looking to have that many people walk your property and disrupt your staff to that level, and maybe not let on to your tenants that you're going to sell, because some owners are very sensitive to letting your tenants know you're going to sell for one reason or another. You might want to consider just, if you can get your number, that's the number that works, sell direct. So not to counter you, but I do believe that there are certain benefits to selling direct if you can get to the price that you want, right?
Definitely. And that kind of ties in the story to DeRosa Capital 10, right?
Yeah.
That seller, he was very sensitive to people on the property. And I don't know if you want to go with it.
Overly sensitive. No, go there. He's not watching. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He might not
got a glass of bourbon in me, and he's not watching. So go ahead and tell the story.
So, I mean, this guy, he ran this property like a top. I mean, this thing was fully occupied, minimal turnover. He knew what he was doing, but he just had some quirky things going on. And I can remember specifically sitting in the leasing office doing the lease audit, and
I remember this too.
And all of a sudden, the broker who marketed this deal to us calls me and says, "Hey, don't talk to the leasing agents." And I was like, this was 30 seconds after I asked the leasing agent like where the bathroom was, and the owner had literally been on the camera watching us, making sure we didn't talk to the leasing agents. So like a guy like that, right? I mean, this was a great opportunity, and Justin.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
what a crazy moment that was. Yeah, when I got that, I mean, when that was brought to my awareness, I was like, wow, this guy is absolutely watching everything we do, just sitting in his little office, smoking a cigar, just watching everything we're up to, and just saw Kevin ask one of his staff a question, and immediately said, "Oh, don't ask my staff, don't talk to my people."
And that also brings in it shows the value of a broker in another sense, because the team who was brokering that deal, they knew this seller way better than we did. We didn't even know what the guy looked like, but he could tell us, and the brokers could tell us and coach us through it. And I remember Matt and I talking like, "This is weird, like this is ridiculous," and them saying, "Hey, like if you want this deal, this is kind of what you have to do." And they were able to coach us through the process and sort of navigate, hey, if you want this deal and you want to get the information you need to close this transaction, don't talk to the leasing agent, talk to us, and other things. So
that's great. And that's a really good transition, I think, to bring Dave on, because Dave and I had a not quite as exciting experience, but Dave and I went to that property as well before we closed, and it was very much like we had like 10 seconds, right? Like they were very, very strict with the amount of time that we had, what we could look at, the amount of units we could get in, the due diligence.
So we gotta turn somebody loose to bring Dave in.
Yeah. Well, Ben came on first, so I'm gonna bring Ben. I'm gonna drop you down to the, and we'll bring you back, and then I'll pop back.
Well, no, you can drop. We're already at hours, so Ben, we can drop Ben. Ben, thank you for being here. Ben, you're amazing. Thank you for being the back end of our operations. Ben, you can drop. We're gonna replace you with somebody. We'll see. Dave, let's everybody give Ben a cheer. I better give Ben a toast right now to your cameras.
Yes,
Ben. Ben, cheers, you, man. Happy Friday. Happy hour.
Good seeing you, Ben.
Happy Friday, guys.
Thanks, Ben.
All right, let's bring in our other hammer. 3, 2, there he is. What's up, guys? How are you, man?
Mr. Patient is what we're going to start calling him.
This is one of those scenarios.
Just bring a notepad and take notes the whole time. What's that?
I said, this is where you save the best for last.
That's right.
That's the best for last.
Best for last.
Yeah.
I got to warn you. So for 59 minutes and 30 seconds now, while you guys have been talking, I've had nothing else to do but, well.
Well, have you refilled it, Dave? Because I refilled mine a few times. Hope you have. Yeah.
Absolutely. It might be a little dicey when I try and stand up here.
What flavor is that? What flavor of ice cream you got there?
Angel's Envy.
Ooh, nice one.
Nice. I'm a fan.
Listen, full disclosure, though, I have been on a vodka kick lately. Tito's.
Oh no.
The problem is I mixed it with these 0-calorie drinks, and we're talking flavors like strawberry watermelon and blueberry. And I know if I roll up with a pink drink, you guys would be all over me.
We would. I would. I'd tell you, you know what up. I rip you. What the pink?
It was like 30 minutes ago now, but I've been to Kentucky 6 times now, and I've always slept in my own bed. I don't know what you're doing out there, but
I don't know about that. I love that Dave has been watching for an hour. Dave has been sandbagging. He's been sandbagging comments.
He's been waiting.
Tell you what, Dave, you've had a few drinks. You've been watching for an hour. Let it rip.
There you
go. Just let us have it and tell us all about yourself and throw anything out that you want to throw out.
I got to congratulate Kevin on his marriage, and I'm coming up 6 years in June. Congrats. If you can make it through 3 months of quarantine, man, you can make it through anything.
We're doing good. Thanks, Dave.
Wow. Oh man, Dave's got an hour's worth of topics built up that he's.
Yeah. Well, I want to throw a few things out. I got to do something. I got to do a few things. Right. So, Justin, I'd like for you to play the same game. I want you to introduce Dave, because the best way to compliment someone is to tell other people what you know about them. So, Justin, take a minute and introduce us all to the Dave Mitro.
So, Dave Mitro is blurry.
Justin.
I got it. First off, he's super blurry. I don't know what's up with that, Dave. Everyone else is.
I don't know either.
You're like,
we gotta get you better internet, Dave.
Justin, I'm glad you said that. I thought it was my drink. So I'm glad you said
connection.
No, it's not your drink.
You're not seeing my best features.
It's the hour of bourbon. He's all blurry just from the drinking.
Yeah.
Listen, Dave is like Mr. No Nonsense construction manager for us. Dave has become a awesome friend and partner on all these properties with us, because he runs our construction, and his attention to detail is extraordinary. His bullshit meter is extraordinary, and he doesn't put up with any of that. And so he's a good compliment, because I might think about trying to see the other side, and Dave will remind me, no, that's bullshit. They shouldn't be doing that. And so where we sort of have a give and take, where I'll be like, and he'll be like, no. And I love that about Dave, because he's always thinks back to what's best for the property and the project and our investors, what's right, what's wrong. He's got a great moral compass, and he's just so good at keeping track of the details and knowing exactly what's happening on all of our projects. Not only like where are we spending money, but how do we feel about that contractor that we used one time on one unit, and would we ever bring them back? Like, he's got a great recall for all the vendors that we're using on all of our projects, and it's just so great to have a strong construction manager that works with me and on this team to just run that. And I know, like, all I've got to do is go click approve on the invoices, because I know it's all being handled. So he makes my job that much easier.
Awesome.
1 minute and 45 seconds.
Whatever.
I love the analyst steps in. It's like, so you know, you said 30 seconds. That is 1 minute 45 seconds. Whatever.
He deserves every second.
Whatever penalty you want to offer, it's available right now. Okay, Dave. So real quick, what are you grateful for right now, man? We're asking everybody watching right now to type in something they're grateful for. What are you grateful for right now?
I have plenty of time to prepare too.
What?
So, I said I had plenty of time to prepare that question.
Yeah, think about it.
So it's been great. So we're the whole family's in routines now. So my wife and I get up in the morning and we've been working out together pretty much every day. Something that we couldn't do before, obviously because of jobs and commitments. My son is taking a liking to Mario, so I do that with him for 30 to 40 minutes. After we're done that. And then we've been doing a lot of board games, wife, son, my stepchildren. We've been playing, card games, rummy, Monopoly. Actually, my 4-year-old likes it the most. He calls it Monopoly, but it's been a big hit with him. And I mean, what better way to teach your child about?
Your 4-year-old playing Monopoly? Your 4-year-old's playing Monopoly? You're playing like Kidopoly?
No, it's Monopoly. We got to kind of coach him through it. He rolls the dice, he moves the spots, and then we tell him, buy this, build a, you want to build some houses here, and he likes that, and it's fun, it's enjoyable. He tunes out after probably 45 minutes. Monopoly's a long game, but still, just to be able to do that together and him to learn and take in whatever he can. It's
My wife picked up a version of Kiyosaki's game Cash Flow. Yeah. So there's a game called Cash Flow for Kids, and it's super watered down version of the game where like all you're really trying to teach the kids is that there is something called a doodad, an asset, and an expense income, right? And so Cash Flow for Kids just teaches those parameters. And we picked up a copy of it. My brother-in-law used to teach it on a broad scale, and we've got a copy of the board game Cash Flow for Kids. And I find like Cash Flow to be a very like adult version of Monopoly, and Cash for Kids is on the low side, right? So yeah, Gates, I love the Cash Flow game too. In that, like, I honestly like what taught me things about syndication and partnering with people. I got from the game Cash Flow. So just not to go off on a little bit of a rant here, but like in Cash Flow, there's people that have different jobs. Like there's a doctor that makes a ton of income, but has a bunch of expenses. Then there's a mechanic that has no income, but low expenses. And so what I found that the parameters in the game, the way to win that game very quickly is that like, let's just say Herve lands on the doctor card. I'd say that because he's smart, right? And then Justin lands on the mechanic card because he's Justin. No, I'm just joking. I would
nothing wrong with that.
Right. I'm the mechanic, right?
So not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, right. I'm joking. So at the end of the day, what you need to do, the way you play that game is that you have the mechanic land on the high deal cards, and you get the doctor to go borrow money to invest with the mechanic, right? And the equations work. So you can strike there's nothing in the rule book that says you can't strike partnerships in that game. So the first syndication I've ever done was over a game of Cash Flow. It really was by having someone who landed a doctor card that had a bunch of income and was bankable and could borrow money, and to have someone who was a mechanic that had more versatility, had a little maybe lower income but lower expenses, and was able to be a little more nimble, could just kind of just work on playing higher risk and land on bigger cards, and then find people to mitigate those risks with them through cash, right? It was my first way to do it. So Dave, I just recommend you try on Cash for Kids. Give your kids. How old is your son? 4, you said? Dave, how old is your son?
4, but I played Cash Flow obviously, and at that age, you're learning and you don't even realize it. You're trying to teach somebody something,
it's fun.
Especially kids, they're not interested. But if they can learn things by playing a game and not even realize they're learning, I think that's the best way to do it, whether it's Cash Flow, Monopoly, And here's my monopoly tip that I got to make sure nobody's around right now to listen to this. Only my wife is, but I don't mind about that. So in Monopoly, everybody wants to go after, Boardwalk, Park Place, the blue, the green. You're not really going to get your return on investment by buying those. Now, I'm not saying not to buy them and then, maybe trade them, but, your true value piece is, if you're familiar with the board, is right after you get sent to jail, between jail and free parking, I think you have like the purple and the orange. And the reason is, they're affordable.
Orange.
Right. Thank you,
Always.
Justin. Right. So you're always orange, right? Because, a lot of people, end up in jail, either by rolling doubles 3 times in a row or, go to jail now. So you have people landing in that spot, and then where are you going to land? Orange, and then to a second degree, the purple pieces. So, I play with my family and they think I'm lucky. I'm not lucky. I know which pieces to load up on, and then to either buy on my own or ask for in trades, because those are the pieces you want to build on based on how much they cost to acquire and then how much to build on them as well.
Let's run with that for a second. Let's keep the monopoly an analogy going, right? I've never gone here, but Monopoly is a good example of D, C, B, and A class real estate, right?
Exactly.
Right. So here's the deal. I've won Monopoly by buying Boardwalk and like striking an absolute, like, have to give away my arm, my leg, and half my foot to get Park Place. Okay, because they know what's going to happen if I get those two. I'm going to be able to build, and build houses on them, right? But the problem I have with owning Park Place and Boardwalk on Monopoly is that that's a great Facebook post. Would you rather own Park Place and Boardwalk on Monopoly, or New York, Tennessee, and what's the other one?
St. James.
St. James. No. Dave, what are the oranges? Is St. James an orange, or is it
I think Justin's right.
Just St. James.
Cool. Thank you.
It's purple.
Right. We've got to get together as a team and play Monopoly. That'd be awesome. I'd love to see who wins that game, but that's not about who.
There's a card in one of the Chancellor community chats that I believe says advance to St. James. Now, I know there's one for advance to New York.
There's one.
There's also one advance
St. Charles. St. Charles Place.
Right.
But St. Charles, I think like 4 or 5, a roll of like a 4, 5, or 7 from St. Charles to get to the orange as well.
But let's run with that for a second.
Right.
I'll ask a group question. I'm going to hear everybody's input. How does Monopoly relate to real life real estate investing? Discussed.
So I think the obvious thing is you start in single family, you scale up to multifamily, you get bigger and bigger and bigger. But as you guys were talking, the thing I was thinking about is Monopoly, like real life Monopoly works in individual markets. So like if you think about Lexington, Kentucky, right? We closed on DeRosa Capital 9, right, in December of 2018. And then I think it was February of 2019, we were in talks for the next asset, which ended up becoming DeRosa Capital 10, a mile and a half down the road, like 1.2 miles down the road, right? And I think what that does is we immediately started talking, okay, how can we consolidate payroll? How can we, and we haven't, the more assets you get in a specific market, you get economies of scale. So I think like it's very easy to see Monopoly and tie it to the real estate game in terms of starting single family homes and then build your way up. But also when you do that in one specific market within multifamily, you can just scale like crazy and you build the relationships. You get the economies of scale. You know who the good contractors are. You know who not to work with again. You can get bulk material at a cheaper cost. So that was kind of what I was thinking about as you two were talking there.
That's so true. And just to keep going with that real life example, 2 things. One, to your contractor point, absolutely. When we bought our third property, that David Costa project that you talked about earlier, like we were able to take the same contractor, same scope of work, move it 4 miles down the road, right? And so there's a lot less risk because I know that guy performs. I know what his quality is like. I know what it's going to cost me. So that resolves a lot of challenges. Just today, we had something pop up where one of our maintenance guys at one of our properties is going to be taking some time. He needs to take some time for a personal matter. And that's okay. And we can even continue to just take us PTO time, because between our two properties that are a mile from each other, we have 4 maintenance guys. So if I lose one, well, I still have 3 maintenance guys that these 2 over here can still pop over and help out with the one that's going to be by himself. So your point is absolutely correct in real life as well, that having those folks all in the same town, I can send my maintenance guy over if the other one gets overloaded, and it's no problem. So
let me be the contrarian on this one. Then I want to hear from Herve and Matt, right? Because Matt, whatever you say sounds smarter with your English accent. So right.
True.
It just sounds that much more intelligent, right? So I'll throw something out, right? I agree with Kevin in some ways, but I also disagree with Kevin that I think that yes, each market has their own A, B, C, D, but I think that by investing further in a market and getting to know local contractors, it enables to make like a B plus, because I've got local relationships, I've got local brokers and things like that. Like a B is a B, right? A B asset is a B asset, and it is what it is. The market's delivering a B, but I can tweak that and through my relationships, through my things and things like that. So I can take, like, if I land on St. James Place, I can't make it a boardwalk, I can make it a little further up. I can squeeze a little bit further up the ladder through my local relationship and things like that. And I can make cost less. I can make the cost to build a house, on that property, 10% less through local relationships and things like that. Right. So at the end of the day, it's about the returns on investing in A real estate versus investing in D real estate, or B or C in the middle. Right. So Matt, give it to us in your very smart English accent. What do you got?
Well, there's 2 things there, Matt. I think the last point you mentioned around the returns on investment. So the BC class neighborhoods, so you tend to get a better return on investment. You get more cash flow, and you certainly see that in Monopoly with the pinks and the orange properties. I think for what you're paying there, you get a much stronger return on your dollar. But the other thing I would say is that Monopoly shows that you need to be strategic in how you approach the game. You can't go around and buying every piece of property that you see. You have to have a game plan, and you need to be targeting what you want to go for from the outset. And that's true in real estate for us. We see so many deals that may look like they're shiny on the face of it, or in new markets. And if we went chasing after new markets all the time, we wouldn't have the time or the resources to get to know a market deep enough to know when a property's in a good area, and what the rental potential is, and how we can develop a good business plan that we can bring to you and the team to see if that's the deal that we want to take down.
Yeah, that's a good point. And going back and to back you up, Kevin, I think that like what you probably were saying in that, like, if I land on St. James Place in Monopoly, I'll buy that. Okay, great. So that means I need New York or Tennessee to create a monopoly and to be able to build my 2 houses and my 4 houses and my hotel, right? So on the next move, if I land on Marvin Gardens, right, do I want to buy it? Or do I want to buy it as a bartering chip, as a negotiation? Because it's a whole thing. Monopoly brings in a phenomenal angle of negotiation, right, which exists in our world. But like that's the beauty of capitalism and of monopoly. It enables me to just work out a deal with Herve. If I'm on Marvin Gardens, and Herve has the other 2 yellows, and he needs those to complete his monopoly, but he also has the orange that I need. We can work out a deal, right? Well, a reason why I might buy Marvin Gardens outside of my territory is so that I can negotiate. Now, Monopoly in some ways brings it outside of reality, because I'm not going to buy a property in St. Louis so I can negotiate with Herve to get a property in Kentucky, right? But I think what Kevin, you may have been saying is that I should focus on buying all the oranges, or like hell or high water, I should get all the oranges so that I could build, correct?
Yeah. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about Dave and Justin, and I want to pose this question. Just staying on this theme, Justin, if you and Dave, just the 2 of you, had a stellar property management team for single family and a stellar property management team for multifamily, How many assets do the two of you think you could manage, just the two of you on the multifamily side, versus how many assets could you manage on the single family side?
Ooh.
So the factors there, besides just single family or multifamily, is also what are you doing with them, right? Because on each of our assets in Kentucky, we're doing like $1 to $1.5 million renovation projects right now, which requires a lot more of Dave's time than if we were not, right? If we're stabilized and the great PM handles the operation side. That's awesome. So if you're talking units, obviously multifamily is way more. And if you are talking about, number of properties, I would say number of construction projects, number of challenges, because a stabilized property is fairly, I don't want to say easy, but it's less hours and energy, because you've set a plan, you've executed the plan, and now you're in sort of like maintenance mode, right? Are we checking in and course correcting? Versus where we are in two of our assets right now in Kentucky is like massive renovations. Like, dude, there's so many discussions that we're having. Do we have the right contractors? Do we have the right people, the right teams, the money? Do we have the money to send? And what do we owe? And there's so much other cash management that comes with those projects. So I don't think I answered your question, and I'm going to blame the bourbon. So ask me again if I.
So I'm looking up. So I'm looking up median house.
All right, Kevin, one more time. Say it again.
So I'll change it to units.
All right, Dave's got this. Go ahead, Dave.
So this is how I'll say it instead, because Justin made a good point. If you had a stellar property management team on the single family side and a stellar property management on the multifamily side, how many units do you think the two of you, without having to hire anybody else, could manage before you had to hire somebody else? Units.
It's just Justin and I, assuming there's no property manager involved, how many could we manage on our own? Is that what you're asking?
He's saying that if we had a good property manager.
Yes.
Okay. If we had a good PM, it's very realistic to have them managing thousands of units. That's actually what they do. So for instance, in Kentucky, we have 166 and 222, that puts us around 400. I think we could easily approach 1,000 with them. And, the issue that comes is, do we want to have all our eggs in one basket? So let's say we have 5 assets in Kentucky, 1,000 units, all with the same, property manager. That's risky, and everybody on this call can, attest. We already had to switch property management companies, and it was messy, and, we're still trying to rebound and, get everything in order. And that was only with 2 properties. To do it with 5, would be even more difficult. So I think, you get to a certain point where even if they're doing a good job, you want to interview other property management companies just to compare them, just to keep them honest, just to keep them motivated. And then from a single family perspective, how many can you manage on your own, or just with a partner? I think it's more, how much do you want to manage? You could get up to a very high volume, I imagine, and you have people out there that are full-time landlords. The question is, do you want to do that, or do you want to have a more passive role? Essentially, you would have a job. If you, well, actually, Matt, how many units did you get up to before you hired a property manager? Locally in the Trenton area.
115. Well, so
okay,
super long story made really short. So we tried to manage in-house with our own team, our own office manager, our own property manager, but I realized very quickly that wasn't scalable, and I didn't want the flag that we flew to be property management. I wanted to be real estate asset management, alternative investments, right? So if we decided to go into the property management business, then we would have had to have grown to like 500, 1,000 units under management to even be profitable, right? Because at 115, we weren't even profitable. So I think that, you got to decide, if somebody's watching, is think about, go left, go right. Like if you want to, you got to decide, are you a property holder or are you a property manager? And there's a lot of money in both. But property management requires a lot of employees, requires a lot of people, a lot of protocol, a lot of staffing, a lot of if this then that kind of thing. And you can scale unlimited. Property ownership, property holding maybe is smaller because you're only able to raise so much money, and you've got to rely on your property manager, and you're also a little more out of control. Your profitability is going to be less. I think our profitability, our profitability was higher when we managed ourselves. But I traded that off in exchange for scalability, and so that's my 2 cents on like managing in-house versus hiring somebody out. If that helps.
Yeah, I think having a solid property management team, especially
so to touch on your point, somebody like yourself that.
Go ahead, Dave.
What? Go ahead, Dave.
I've spoken enough.
Say, Matt, obviously somebody like yourself, I think like an hour ago at this point talking about, our skills that we're best suited at. It wouldn't be in your best interest to spend your time managing 115 units when, you can do so much more talking to investors, raising capital so that you can acquire hundreds of units at a time. Mm-hmm. So at that point, the trade-off obviously makes sense to pay somebody else to do the day-to-day and manage your units.
Yeah. I mean, it's managing is a profitable business. It is, but it's nowhere near as profitable as acquiring properties, and doing deals and growing and everything like that. And it's a good, call it like, cash cow that you can run, but you've got it. But there's a lot of ifs, right? You got to do it well. It's a thankless business. It sucks. I mean, you're only dealing with angry tenants. Like the only time tenants ever call it's because they're angry. They don't call you because they're happy. And so there's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of personnel issues and everything like that. So it's an awful business to deal with on that side of it, but it can be profitable, and it's a necessary evil in the world of real estate ownership, right? So we just decided to like just go towards what I'm great at, which is raising money and getting in different markets. Because I didn't want to have the DeRosa group to parachute people into North Carolina and Kentucky. I'd rather find people that know how to do what they do in those markets. That said, we would do much like once we get to a certain scale, we could probably design. I think we as a company could design an internal structure that could be run a lot tighter if we owned it. If our PMs in certain markets worked for us, and versus like worked like, they work for the company that we hired. But if they're in-house employees, that we can design a certain culture, design a certain work ethic, and design a certain job description, and design the certain systems. Because like when we've had, I'll give you an example, Justin and Dave, when we and Kevin too, when we've had prior property managers that ran our properties in Kentucky, we weren't happy with the way they were structured. And I would have not been okay with certain people that were running certain facets of that business. But at the end of the day, we didn't own that company. So I couldn't say, this isn't working. We've got to change the people up. We've got to redesign the structure, right? It was a vendor. They were a vendor of ours. And it's one thing if it's a vendor, it's a different thing if we own it. And so I believe that long-term, it's better to bring it in-house. But given, it takes a certain size company to bring that level of work in-house. Herve, think about Rockefeller, right? Rockefeller wanted to horizontally and vertically integrate.
Yep.
He wanted to own everything from the oil, refinery, all the way out to the distribution.
Yep.
Right. So as a company, it makes sense to own the entire chain, but you've got to have a certain scale to get there.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So we're not at that scale yet as a company, but I believe that you can be, and people that are larger than us are at that point where they own PM all the way to fund management and everything in between.
Yeah, I think that makes sense after a certain point. When you're smaller, if you're in the certainly less than 100 units, less than 1,000 units, I think rely on that expertise of the local property management companies, because there's a lot, especially if you're investing out of state. Like there's so much happening. Our investors keep our property management companies keep us up to date. And James Wilcox sends Dave and I an email like once a week of like what's happening in Lexington right now.
Yeah,
stuff that we can find out, but you're more in tune with it when you're on the ground. And the management companies that are used to managing there are more in tune with that kind of stuff. So to a certain point, yeah, I think it makes sense to go with a third party. And after,
I'll put somebody in the spot. That's a good point. Sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get better at that. Kevin Dean, you've researched a lot of larger companies, right? That do bigger ownership and everything like that. Have you seen more in-house PM or subbed out PM on the companies that own north of 1,000? Like I'm talking like 4,000 or 5,000 units that are way up here, stratosphere. Do most of them manage in-house and most of them sub it out?
So I would say this is how I would separate. There's a class who owns one property, and there's like a class of the probably like 200 to let's say 2,000 who are more or just that's what they own. There's the 2,000, 10,000, and then once you get above, let's say like 10,000, that's when I would say probably 90% is in-house. And also the structure of their companies is really strong in terms of it's not just on operations, acquisitions. They literally have a whole department dedicated just to dispositions, right? They have their in-house legal team. They have their in-house accounting team. And like, I mean, Herve is probably even very familiar with this in terms of all of his equity research days. Like when you get big enough, it makes more sense to have your own lawyers in-house and your own property management, your own construction management. So I'd say like once you get north of 10,000, those are the guys who have in-house everything.
That makes sense.
What's everything?
Legal, property management, asset management, construction management, accounting. They have a lot of controllers typically. There are a few who will outsource management, but typically once you get north of 10,000, they bring everything in-house.
So companies at that size, go Hokies, by the way. I just got to go Hokies, so I've got to just give it a quick pause. Go Hokies. So companies at that size, Kevin, that are above 10,000, do they sell more infrequently? Because a lot of syndicators like us, where they're raising money and presenting offering memorandums to investors and things like that, and doing deals where there's a beginning, middle, and an end, ends like at around 5 years. Syndicators tend to buy and sell, on more transactionally, right?
Yeah.
Right. So folks that are above that level, are they more hold guys?
I'd say there's a mixture because there's one camp where they do super low leverage. So like there's something called a credit facility, which is like basically where you're crossing all these loans together. So you could have a credit facility that's in loan value $1 billion and asset value maybe 1.7 billion, right? So typically, like let's say 50% of those very large borrowers, they do low leverage, long-term hold type deals, and they'll cross the loans in many different markets. But then there's also, I would say 50% who have such a good relationship with their investors that their investors trust them to basically do whatever they want. So like if they think it's time to sell, then they're okay with it. And they almost don't even have to run it by their investors. Or if they want to hold long term, they'll do that too, and then they'll refi when necessary. So I'd say it's more like bifurcated, where you have I'll say this: it's rare to see a very large borrower who is doing 7-year holds and less on a consistent basis, but there are those who do it. The other thing that's interesting too is a lot of these larger borrowers. So like one is like their primary investors are institutional investors. And then the other thing too is they're very diversified, not only geographically, but also amongst asset classes. So they'll own hotels, they'll own retail, they'll own a little bit of everything.
Got it.
I just want to point out that Dave got on a gigabit connection or something. because now we can actually see his face.
I know. Dave's not on the dial-up, right?
Oh,
he was dial-up Dave a second ago.
The other 27 people on Wi-Fi probably got off.
Oh, it's definitely clear. It's a little choppy still, but it's definitely better than it was.
All right, who wants to hop in? We threw a bunch of stuff out there. Kevin Dean and I were talking in more details about, like, in-house management versus on-site management. We've got some comments on Facebook on that. Go ahead, hop in. Go ahead.
Hone commented on Facebook. Thanks, Hone, by the way, for watching. He said the real question is, what business do you want to be in? Like,
yes.
Do you want to be a property management company or a property ownership company or both? Right now, we're set as an ownership company, but I could see in the future how we could grow into that. And we certainly set the foundation for now.
Well, I think that a lot of companies have picked one. I think you got to pick one horse or the other, property ownership or property management. And eventually you can merge the two, right? So Slate House Group, our good friends Nate and Chad have built an enormous property management company, and I think that eventually they'll get into property ownership, big property ownership too, to merge the two, right? But you've got to focus on one horse or the other. At DeRosa, we chose to focus on property ownership, and I think that eventually we'll look to merge the two and get into property management as well, and kind of just do more horizontal integration and things like that. So, but I think you've got to choose one direction or the other, and rely on to scale property management or scale property ownership, and rely on the other to build the other side of the business. So, cool. All right, anybody hop in. Random thoughts, or whatever it is. Change gears, whatever you got.
Leave it in the comments. We'll go back a little bit. We have Nabil is watching. He's an insider. Hone's watching. Ginny popped in. Hey, Ginny. H Squared Capital, our friends over there. Lady by the name of Elizabeth Faircloth joined in. Hey, Liz, what's going on? Hey, Nor. Dave Van Horn's in the house. Dave Van Horn, thanks for joining. And Andrew's got a question. And I just recently had a broker tell me I shouldn't purchase a property based off actual financials. Wow. All right, we got the team to answer that question.
All right. Kevin, Matt, Herve, hop in. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to let Herve answer this. Herve's been quiet over there.
No, it's good. No, I mean this is
Matt and Herve both have been quiet. Matt, it's time to shake you and Herve up, man.
Yeah, Matt, you take it. Matt, I'm
gonna put you on the spot. Matt, you got a deal right now. Andrew needs help, man. Here's the deal, Matt. We got a deal where the buyer is you're being asked to purchase a property based on current actual financials of the property. So current financials. What do you think? Based on what you think the property could do based on your analysis. Which one?
Well, I would always buy off actuals. And really, because that's the only thing you've got to base on what the property is performing on. If you're buying off the potential for what the property's going to do, which is what the broker's doing in this case, is obviously there's a lot of speculation involved there, and clearly, in my opinion, the broker's asking you not to buy off actuals because he's expecting the property to perform better in the future, and therefore that's going to get a higher price for his seller and extra commission for him. So there is an element of self-interest in it for the broker.
Matt, are you saying don't trust brokers? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that not to trust them, no, but just take what they say with a grain of salt.
So you are so English. I got to tell you, like I love you, but like you're so polite.
I think what he's saying is think about the motivation. Is what he's saying. Right? A broker's motivated to sell it for the highest price.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, Matt. And I think that there's probably something to the actuals, but as you said, you can't put too much. The broker, you've got to take mind on who you're taking advice from, right? So,
and also, I would say is you want to understand the backstory to the property. So did the property go through a transition period earlier on? So that maybe makes the T12 less accurate. In which case, then you might want to look at it at the trailing 6 month or T3 to see how it's currently performing. But again, that's still an element of actuals involved there, rather than using the broker's pro forma, where they're going to maximize the income and suppress expenses to increase the NOI and then therefore increase the price at which they're trying to achieve for the sale.
Well, and I think that, Matt, when we've looked at deals together, the beginning part of the story is the owner's financials, right? But there's a lot, but that's probably the top of the beginning of the conversation. There's a lot more to the conversation besides the owner's financials. You got to dig deeper than that. You can get into market analysis and get into our projected financials and get into a property manager's projected financials and things like that. So I actually would agree with you in a lot of ways, that I think that it's the beginning and it's okay. It's valid. You don't discredit it, but you can't make that gospel,
So let me ask you guys that are much smarter than me on this topic. How are you factoring in what's happened in April and May with rent collection and coronavirus? How is that changing the way that we're looking at a deal? Like, are we only looking at, April was lower, so the value of the property is lower? Like, where do we even start with that kind of conversation?
So I guess I can speak to how we've been underwriting deals recently. And the way I think about this is like, I tie it a lot to, and I know a lot of real estate people don't like investing in the stock market, but I do like the philosophy. I like the Warren Buffett style of investing in the stock market, and I like to tie that to real estate. And when I'm underwriting a deal, like we're basically doing a discounted cash flow. So we're saying, based on all the future cash flows of the property, what is this property worth today, right? And there's a lot of factors that come into that. What's the supply coming online, meaning how many units are going to be built in the next 1 year, 10 years, right? However long our hold period is. How many people are moving into this market? How many people are getting jobs and have the ability to pay the rent that we're projecting? And Herve usually is doing most of the work on that. And then how does that factor into rent growth, vacancy? Those are really the two primary drivers. Concessions, you could speak to that too. So like when you're looking forward on underwriting a deal, I could make a guess and I could say, okay, we're going to get flat rent growth over the next 2 years, or we're going to get negative 1%. But like, that's just a guess. So what I personally do when I'm underwriting deals is I rely on the experts. So I'm going into CoStar and I'm saying, go into this submarket. How many units are coming online? How many people are moving here? What's the job growth based on what the people who do this every single day are seeing? And I literally take number for number. What is the rent growth they're projecting? What's the vacancy they're projecting? And if anybody's watching this right now and they have a CoStar subscription, you'll see over the last month, CoStar has completely changed their projections going forward. Wow. So like, we could take, we were underwriting a deal in Gastonia, North Carolina last month that we were going to make an offer on, and they ended up pulling the property out. But literally as we were underwriting the deal, 2020 rent growth went from around 3.5% to negative 9%, right? So like, wow. What did I do? I went into my spreadsheet and I relied on the experts and I did negative 9% for year one. Okay. And then year two, CoStar tells me, well, you're going to get negative 9% this year, but you're going to get positive 7% the next year after that. So short answer is I rely on the experts. I look at CoStar and I plug in exactly what they're telling me, and I factor that into what our business plan is.
Yep. Yeah. You've got to, I think the bottom line is you got to get data from multiple resources. I mean, Herve, you got to go to the stats that are out there on the market that you're in. You got to just go to different sources and blend them together, and including what the owner says it's going to do, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, you have to go to multiple sources. You have to take a look at the trend in regards to how the property, had, the way it was being managed. And, you have to think about, before you even really dig into the performance, like, why are we interested in this property? Like, I mean, Kevin and I, we can we can slice and dice, the markets and the properties that get bombarded to us via emails from brokers all of the time. But why are we interested in this particular property, right? And is it going to be, we have a great opportunity to, because there's some low-hanging fruit here, to go ahead and improve efficiencies, lower the OpEx, raise rents, one or the other, or vice versa, or a combination of both. Isn't an opportunity for us to go ahead and replace the property manager. New property manager comes in, brings in more efficiencies, and we get better NOI and things like that. So that's really it's because if the property is very, very attractive because of the market it's located, because it is a turnaround, that is something that we can work with, even though the financials may not be as attractive as what they're going to be down the road. So yeah, we have to look at multiple sources. We have to really look inside of ourselves. Why are we interested in this particular asset, in this particular market? And then realistically, what can we do? I mean, I think the good thing about when we look at, when Kevin underwrites properties, we don't go in trying to be superheroes and saying, oh, because we manage these properties in Kentucky or down in North Carolina, we're going to be able to come in and in 4 months' time, we're going to take occupancy levels from 85% to 98%. And we're going to, it's just not realistic, right? And that's fine. But if you can be realistic with your operations and what you believe, Justin and Dave can get out of this once we, potentially hand it over to them, then you can really, really start to look attractive. So, the good thing about us is I don't think we ever go into a particular market or look at a particular asset needing to, swing for the fences, so to speak, right? I mean, I think if the pro forma looks like, hey, this is a nice double, with hard work and with the relationships that we have and with squeezing a sponge here and there, we could turn that double into a triple and maybe even a home run.
Yeah,
I'll take a double. I'll take a double over a home run.
Right, exactly right.
The home runs are normally more speculative than anything else.
Yeah, right. And Matt, just to get a little bit more practical too, because I recognize not everybody has a CoStar subscription, right? So like one thing that I think makes sense right now is stretch out your renovations, because if you're in a deal versus when you're underwriting a deal, it's two different things. Because if you're already in a deal, your primary concern is how do we conserve capital? How do we keep our cash balance as high as possible? If you're underwriting a deal, you can account for that. And you can raise more capital up front, right? But you have to think about like who's your target tenant right now. And if your target tenant is in the midst of coronavirus and they're teetering on, maybe they do have a job, maybe they don't, maybe they're funding their rent through an unemployment check, the odds of them paying up another $200 for a really nice renovated unit are low. So like right now, we've been looking at properties that would work very well at the price they're asking for 3 months ago, but because we know it's almost like a moral thing too. You don't want to go in there and take people out of their units and while they're struggling through coronavirus, jack up their rents. One, because it just doesn't feel good, but two, because you're probably not going to get the rents you're looking for. Right. So I think like a very practical thing is one, stretch out your renovation budget. So like, before, we could renovate this property in 2.5 years and refi at the end of year 3. Now we're saying, okay, it's probably going to take us 3 years to get through all of these units. And then we're going to refi at a higher cap rate. Right.
Yeah.
So I think one practical thing is stretch out your renovations. Another practical thing is just realize you're not going to get the same rent bumps you did a couple months ago.
Yeah. The world's changed, right? The world has changed a lot, and people might not pay, $200 a month more for stainless steel appliances and a playground and things like that. So that means we can't pay as much for properties that we can do value add on it. It all pushes back to the purchase price.
If I can chime in with some real world over the last 5 to 6 weeks here since the beginning of April, for all of our assets, a renovated unit we are leasing actually, and it could be due to the season, but we're leasing our units very fast. On all of our properties, we have almost 0 renovated units available because every time on all of them, we're renovating as fast as we can and we're actually pouring money into units. So we have redirected cash. We're not doing things like, the dog park is taking the back burner. The other things that are not tied to units have pushed to the side because we want to conserve cash. But renovated units, I cannot.
I gotta tell you, I've seen some posts from Slate House Group and from other property managers that we deal with, and everybody that we've talked to. I wish I could tell you why this is, but I'm not gonna BS. I'm not gonna make it up. But all I can tell you is that absorption rates for available units has gone way up. I mean, it is at least double of what it was pre-coronavirus. And I can speculate as to why that is, but without true market data and interviewing every prospect we get, it's hard to say. There's a lot of speculation.
I would throw in it's a little bit speculation, but a lot of facts and data behind this as well. From an operator standpoint, we are in a really, really, really good position from a supply-demand balance. Yeah, way better than the situation was back in 2008 when there was an oversupply of not only single family but multifamily. We're not in that. Yeah, we're not in that situation right now.
I have read online, not to we can rabbit hole it if you guys want, but I've read that we are in a supply crisis right now, with a C word for multifamily, meaning we have a housing crisis, meaning there is not enough housing, period, for the amount of people that exist in the U.S. There's not enough housing for these people. And that's meaning there's people that just need a place to live, and there's not enough places for those people to go to live. And that's with coronavirus in consideration. That's what I've heard, and it's become exacerbated. It's become worse even more with coronavirus. But I can tell you that with Corona, our occupancy rates have gone up on everything I own. Everything's gone up. Occupancy has. So, Kevin Dean, what do you speculate with a capital S? I don't want to hold you to it. Why has occupancy gone up and leasing rates gone up in today's market?
So,
Matt Will's you're next. So think hard.
I was going to push back on the oversupply. So I think the sentiment out there is that there's a lack of affordable housing. So I don't think there's a lack of housing. And there's a great website for all the listeners that they can go to. It's weareapartments.org. And then you can do /data. And you can choose by state, metro, county, what the supply demand factors are. So I think if you just think about from a developer standpoint, it doesn't make sense unless you're getting a bunch of tax credits or government subsidy to build workforce housing, right? What makes sense is Class A. So that's what people have been building for a long time. So if you look at these really big investors like Sam Zell has been sitting on the sidelines for the last few years and just rebuying his properties at the low rates that are out there. But he's not out there pursuing new assets because his bread and butter is he does have an MHC, a manufactured housing arm, but he also does large 500 unit Class A properties. One of his biggest properties is this property called Cobblestone Apartments in Chicago, and they have a lot of the actual Chicago Cubs who live there, right? So when he's out there buying these Class A properties with tenants who make millions and millions of dollars, but then there's these developers who are developing property because financing is so attractive. There's so much capital out there. And the only opportunity for them to build a property and make financial sense is to go Class A. He can't compete against that. So I would push back slightly and say it's not that there's a ton of that there's a lack of housing. I'd say there's a lack of affordable housing. And the great thing about what we do is that's what we focus on, right? Yeah. So I don't know because you guys are on the front line. I'm up front and I'm underwriting the properties. I'm looking at data. I'm talking to lenders. So I see the high level perspective. But in terms of why is their occupancy gone up, I can't answer that specifically. I think maybe Justin and Dave, who are on the front lines, would be better to answer that. But just from a supply demand perspective, there's not workforce housing being built.
Good answer. Thank you. Matt Wills, I'm going to put you on the spot, but I gave you time to think about it because I told you were next. so Matt Wills, why do you think that leasing has gone up in today's market? I can tell you, for example, we're probably seeing at least a 10% increase on all of our properties in interested parties looking to rent post-corona. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with what Kevin said around the affordable housing. New affordable housing isn't being built. All of the properties that are being built are primarily Class A properties.
Yep.
There's greater margin for the developers there. So I would say to answer your question, I'm thinking that my guess would be that maybe people are thinking ahead. They're planning for what maybe to come. That they're thinking like, well, maybe there's going to be a downturn in the economy. Their income's going to be hit, and maybe they're looking to proactively move down from a Class B to a Class C property to try and reduce some of their housing expense to retain as much of their income. Interesting.
Because
it's not just our properties, Matt, where that's happening. Other people I've been talking to in the Philly area have been saying that when they've had rentals come up, whether it's multifamily or single family, they've had lots of viewings and they've been going quickly as well.
So Matt Wills put it in Twitter, right? Matt Wills is saying America is downsizing, and I would agree with that. I think that's a good analysis, and I think I honestly had thought of it that way, in that these people that are looking to lead, that were leasing here, are now dropping down a little bit and leasing on a larger scale in smaller markets. So I think that's a very astute, Matt. Justin Fraser, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think that's a really good point. I did not think about that at all.
I don't either. That's what I love, Matt. Matt's the outside the world thinker over here. What do you got? What do you got, Kevin?
It's the British accent. His brain.
His brain's wired differently.
We're drinking, and he's got sparkling water, so
that's probably it.
That's the fact.
He's got it all going for him right now. He's got the new haircut too.
Yeah.
But Justin, I'll send this to you after this, and then you can maybe blast this out to DeRosa insiders. Yeah. But NMHC, I don't know if you guys follow NMHC. They're the National Multifamily Housing Council. They collect a ton of data. They just came out today with an update on collections through the 6th of May. And basically what they put out was they put out a chart that compares the 6th, the 13th, the 20th, the 27th, and the end of the month, 2019 in April to 2020 in April, and then also 2019 in May to 2020 in May. And I'll send that over to you, Justin, and then you can blast that out.
What do you think?
So,
and looking at that, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll just share the
can you screen share it? Justin, can he screen share that?
It's on my other computer.
Okay, cool.
I'd have to email it to myself, but I'll just.
Well, yeah. Well, I'll plug it, right. So Matt, Kevin's going to describe it to us, but it is a reason for we will give it to you guys for free on Insiders. So Justin, put it out on Insiders when Kevin emails it to you. But Kevin, tell us more about what you got there.
So
if you're not an insider and you want it, just text us. Join for $1.
Yeah, $1. You can have what Kevin's about to tell you about. Go ahead, Kevin.
So end of April. 2019 versus 2020. In 2019, 97.7% of rents were collected. End of 2020, April, 94.6% of rents were collected. So that's a loss of 3.1% year over year. So 3.1.
It sounds like not that much, Matt or Kevin. It sounds like that much money. That's only 3%. Jeez, but compared to what? Like what kind of a market are we talking about?
So this is all markets. So basically, Class A has had the highest percentage of collections. Class B, second highest. Class C, second, or excuse me, third. So like Class A is paying at a higher rate than Class B and C. However, if you look at effective market rents on a daily basis, Class A have taken the biggest hit, and you can see that in CoStar as well. So, you're down 3.1% through all of April. So, I mean, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's definitely significant. I mean, 3.1% less of tenants are paying their rent. If you take that across a 3,000 unit portfolio, it definitely adds up, especially when your pro forma says, I'm going to collect 95% of rents, and then all of a sudden you collect 92. So it's not as bad as people were projecting, but it's definitely significant.
And I'll add one thing, and I don't want to throw ice water on this, Kev.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
What the data probably is not adjusted for is for the rent collected in April 2020. How much of that was stimulus subsidized?
It does. So it does count. All it does is count how much rent was collected. But if your point is to say the only reason why they were able to pay 94.6% of rent was because they got the stimulus check, then you're right.
Yeah, right. And we don't know how much of that. I mean, I hope it's not too much, but right. I'm sure there is a percentage within there that tenants were able to still pay their rent this past April because they got the stimulus check, perhaps an unemployment check as well, and things like that, right? Things that weren't accounted for in April 2019, right, but need to be subsidized and supported in April 2020, and then perhaps maybe May 2020 as well, once the data is
I will say, to build on to where I think you're going with that, is that we actually have had a better May than we had in April. Where dated like May 7th to April 7th.
Right.
We've collected about 4 to 5% more than we collected in April. So, I mean, it's small dollars amount, and it's only 4 properties, but
right,
that's what we're seeing so far.
Any insight as to what's your guess as to, for folks in May that have collected, have benefited from some of the stimulus and or unemployment? And do you think that's been helping them with their rents based on conversations you've been having with the PMs that you speak with?
Yeah, I think that, luckily in Kentucky, we have a lot of tenants that work at the horse farms. There are still horse racing happening. It's not open to the public, but horse races are kicking up. I think this week they kicked back up again. So there's like the maintenance, the feeding, the farming, like all that stuff keeps happening. And so our tenants are still employed over there. We have not seen a huge spike in unemployment. In North Carolina, we have seen a little bit more unemployment, but we're still getting paid. We're still getting tenants. Our PMs are on top of our tenants, but we're working with people too. Like we're trying to be. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's good. We're working with people. We're helping our tenants. We're working with folks that are working class and stuff like that. But I want to point something out. Kevin pointed out that A-class real estate A-class renters has had a 3%, is a 3% drop in collections or a 3% drop in renewals? What would you say, Kevin?
No, so A-class properties have had the highest amount of collections as a percentage of their tenants, but had the furthest drop in terms of rent growth. So like, I forget the exact numbers, but say
that makes sense.
Property grew at 0.01% in the last month. A-class dropped by 1%. I forget what the exact numbers are, but
coming from a higher level, right?
Faster than B.
So 3% sounds like not that much money, right? But 3% of the national number on rental income is a crazy $1 billion pinky next to your mouth amount of money, right? And so if we're talking about a rental increase in A-class, it is starting to do this. I believe we're starting to. This is just what Matt thinks, right? I think we're starting to see the contraction of what people are willing to pay for rent. I think we've definitely hit the ceiling in A-class. It's been my prediction for a very long time that A-class is going to be the first to topple in a recession. That people are going to be willing to pay $4,000 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment in DC, right, Herve, or in New York City, or whatever it is. We're going to start to see contraction of those purchase prices, which is going to pull people back into B, perhaps C. So I think that maybe why we're seeing an increase in applications in B and C is again, you start to see it on the ground level before you start to see it in data. But I think we're starting to see the people pulling back from here to here, in expenses. People, it's like, oh, you know what? I get it. Maybe I've gotten laid off. I'm not sure if I'm going to get laid off or not. Maybe I'll move and save myself $200 a month, and I'll keep the stainless steel appliances that I have. Or I'll keep some of the amenities that I have, but I'll be willing to do my laundry at a public laundromat versus doing my laundry in my apartment. and I'll save $250 a month in exchange for doing that, right?
So what you're saying is we're, as C-class investors, where most of our properties are C-class assets, we're now attracting what would have been a B-class tenant is now moving down to C-class tenant. Right?
Well, and I'll talk to Herve here, right? Herve, you've been around, you got gray hairs like I do, right? So at the end of the day, you've seen a few contractions like I have, right? So through contractions, what happens is America starts spending less. People start looking at this and say, like, well, I'm going to start, I'm not going to buy that flat screen right now. I'm not going to buy the new apartment. I'm not going to buy this. I'm not going to buy that. I'm going to pay a little bit less for whatever my living expenses are. And that ripple effect ripples out, that because I'm not going to buy the flat screen, that causes the flat screen company to not build a new factory. And it causes them to not hire more people. And it causes them to not buy more materials for the flat screens they were going to build, right? It matriculates out, and because there's a certain contraction of spending, it causes GDP to go down. It causes everything to contract like this. That, in essence, is a recession. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. It's a recession because everyone collectively starts to slow down. Right. So it's those A-class tenants and B-class tenants. They start to spend a little bit less on perhaps luxuries that they were a little bit more accustomed to. And even those luxuries are some of their living luxuries, like, the doorman building that, and then in their own individual parking space in the garage of their multifamily building, and so on and so forth. And then the C-class tenants as well. Right. And then all of a sudden, so if those A, B-class tenants, depending on how long this lasts, hopefully it doesn't last long, right? Because a lot of folks are in the middle of their lease. But, if this were to last for a while and a tenant in an A or B class building, all of a sudden his or her lease becomes available and say, listen, you know what? I want to spend a little bit less. I'm a little worried about my job, I'm not collecting as much. Who knows what's going to be happening with my company, cutting back hours, yada, yada, yada. Then I want to go ahead and downgrade, from an A building to a B building, from a B building to a C building. But everything winds up getting pushed down, right? Because now that property manager has a unit to fill, let's say in a C class or C plus class building, right? Because DeRosa groups come in and we renovate and so on and so forth. Now they're doing tenant background check on a person who otherwise would be completely fine renting out that C plus unit versus that tenant coming from that B building or that A building, right? And, most likely the property manager is going to take that tenant that's coming from a B class building because he or she probably has a little bit better income than the tenant that was, right? So then that C class tenant all of a sudden has got to look for a new place.
So hopefully not to everything dominoes.
Everything dominoes. Yeah.
Everything dominoes pulls back. And as people buy, cheaper cars or choose not to upgrade their car, they choose to just keep the car they got or choose to do whatever it is. There is a mentality that happens in a recession. And I'm only picking on you because you're old like me. And that you've seen the mentality that happens in recessions, and that people start to, you know what? And I'll turn myself in. I'm guilty of this myself. I've said things like, maybe we might not want to do that right now because we're not sure what's going to happen, right? And the uncertainty that happens during recessions is what causes people to pull back. And everybody starts pulling back, and that pulling back causes a drop in GDP, which causes a drop in everything. Right.
Yes.
It causes everything to start dropping, and that dropping causes more people to start creating uncertainty. Like, oh, well, my next door neighbor just got laid off, so maybe I might not buy that flat screen. Maybe I might not buy, the bougie, whatever I'm going to buy. Right? I'm going to drop it down a little bit. Right. So it pulls everything down. So I believe what we're starting to see in an increase in occupancy in C class real estate, which is what we all own. I think that is the beginnings of the recession, which a lot of people predict that COVID-19 is the beginning of the recession. But I think we're actually seeing the results of it in the properties that we're own. I think that we're seeing people drop down to the different states. My 2 cents. We'll see. But this is Matt's opinion.
As it all is, right?
I will say it boldly. We're definitely in a recession right now because the recession is when there's 2 consecutive quarters of GDP contraction, and that's a fact that's going to happen. How fast we come out of it, that's the question. I think it's funny because a lot of these, seeing commentators came out up front and said, this is going to be a V-shaped recovery. And then slowly they switched to a U-shaped recovery. And now they're switching to a Nike swoosh recovery, right? So I think there's
I've heard of W and all kinds. I've heard all the letters of the alphabet.
There's also an I, which is this. Or other way, sorry. And that's the word. So I think, there's no doubt we're in a recession right now. The good news is, like Justin said, collections are up, and that's in line with what NMHC said. Collections were up 2.2% as of the 6th of the month compared to last month, and I'll shoot that out to you just after this.
Cool.
But yeah, we're in a recession, but the good thing is multifamily real estate, you have a hedge against inflation. You get the tax benefits through depreciation. And even if you're not getting a preferred rate of return like you were maybe a month or two ago, you still have capital preservation. So, I mean, multifamily real estate is a great place to be right now.
So I'm going to bring it home because we've been 2 hours and 11 minutes on the call. This has been phenomenal. So a few follow-ups, right? So Kevin's going to send market data on real quick. What are you going to send, Justin, that we're going to put out to insiders only? Go ahead, Kevin. What are you going to send?
Yeah, so I'm just going to send the data that NMHC put out regarding collections, comparing April and May 2019 to April and May 2020.
Got it. So if you wanted to be a member of NMHC, you'd have to pay well over $1,000 a month or $1,000 a year to be a member of that community. So we're going to give you guys that to you guys for nothing. For $1. So if you guys want access to that information, just pick up your handy cell phone and text the word DeRosa to 66866, 66866, and you guys can join Insiders. And Justin will take what Kevin sends. We'll put it out to Insiders so we can generate some great conversation there. We'll hopefully get Kevin Dean's crazy busy with his day job, but we'll love to get Kevin Dean on so we can talk about markets. We can talk about NMHC. We can talk about underwriting. We'll talk about all kinds of crazy stuff. So Justin, please post what Kevin sends you on Insiders and that. So what I want to do is on a quick round robin, right? I want you guys to talk about one quick item of gratitude, right? Why you're awesome and how people get a hold of you. Okay. Because there's lots of people watching. I want people to be able to reach out to you guys to hear more about what you're up to and how they can connect and things like that. So again, what you're grateful for, why you're awesome, and how people get a hold of you. Matt Wills, awesome haircut. How to take it away.
Okay. Well, I'm awesome because I'm British, and so we're back to take over the US again through one piece of real estate at a time. People can get hold of me. I'm on Instagram, Willsy212, or matt.wills@providencecapital.org.
Cool. Awesome. And that is why you're awesome, Matt. Thank you for letting me break your balls because I know that you're English. I know that you got an enormously thick skin, like most English people I know. So thank you very much for being a part of our team and for being here to share your wisdom with everybody. So, okay, let's go to Dave Mitro. First of all, Dave, what are you grateful for? Why are you awesome, and how people get a hold of you?
Sure. So, email is d.mitro@providencecapital.org. You can hit me up on Facebook as well. Friend request me. We can chat there. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this opportunity. Like I said, earlier, got closer with my family, children, wife. At first it was scary to everyone, and as the days progress and it's 15-day quarantine, 30-day quarantine, it's like, oh, what are we gonna do? But it hasn't been that bad, and I've actually seen the good in it. So I give you guys the information to connect with me. So send me a friend request and let's chat.
Cool. Thanks, Dave. All right, let's go to Herve. Herve, real quick. Why are you grateful? Why are you awesome? And how people get a hold of you?
All right. I'd say I am grateful, obviously, for my family, my friends, being part of the DeRosa team. Lots to be grateful for there. Awesome because I can pour a mean drink, especially on Friday and Saturday nights. Hunter work or anything else real estate related.
Cool. Thank you. All right, Kevin Dean, one of our brains. Kevin Dean, why are you awesome? How do people get a hold of you, and what are you grateful for?
So I'm grateful to be healthy, happy, have great friends and family. I'm awesome because I have an amazing network of friends, family, you guys on this call. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, you can email me at k.dean, and that's DEAN, at providencecapital.org.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Justin. All right. Justin, what are you grateful for? Why are you awesome? And how do people get a hold of you?
Oh, hold on. Let me walk and chew bubble gum and put myself up on the screen here.
There you go.
Hammer.
Well done.
I'm grateful to like, this is an awesome
Hammers multitask. Hammers are great at multitasking.
Yeah, I've got to direct this whole thing while y'all are talking. I'm like participating, listening, and putting up, your little things here. But no, I'm having a lot of fun doing what I enjoy doing, what I'm good at doing, and so I'm grateful for this team. I'm grateful for the work that we have. I'm grateful for my family, the time with the family. I mentioned some really awesome moments that I've had with the family, and I'm grateful that like I can look at a scenario and usually find the positive, and I feel like I'm generally pretty optimistic, and I'm actually grateful for that because it's really easy to like crawl into a hole and this is wrong and that's wrong and the president and this and that, and like I try not to get bogged down in all of that kind of stuff. I'm really happy to be like, what's in front of me? I got my team, my work, my family, and a nice bottle of bourbon, and really what else could you want, right? So things are good. Life is good.
Hey, Matt, before you go and answer those 3 questions, I want to give one shout out to Justin. I just started listening to your podcast, True Multifamily. I'm not saying this to be nice and Matt knows this, I shut down everything. It's usually very harsh.
Yeah.
I think that
it's not nice. You want that in an underwriter. They're not allowed to be nice.
I usually say that, but I think your podcast is one of the best podcasts out there because you actually tell people what to do. So please keep it up, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
If you could make it like a bi-weekly or a daily, I would be so happy. I'm not going to put it on you, but
no, I love it. So I was doing 2 days a week. I actually went on a little bit of a hiatus because it was like there's so much interviews to do. But we're coming back. I've already got some interviews. I have some of you guys for interviews and hopefully more. If I haven't interviewed you yet, you're going to be on there. And yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So if you want to find me, True Multifamily is the podcast. And we talk about this. We talk about like the real life of what's going on. We keep the episodes nice and short, one topic, like what is happening? What do we do? What do we do with the prostitutes in our hallways, or like the how do we add $200,000 in value to this property?
Matt Wills is so glad you just said that right there.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. sorry. But it's like the real life stuff of what actually happens and what we deal with and how to go about it. So thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, Matt, you're up.
Real life, man. Real life. Cool. Listen, man. Well, I'll be straight up. What I'm grateful for is to be surrounded by people that are way smarter than me and that give that care deeply about what we're doing as a company, and that are willing to give their best to what we're up to. And so I'm grateful for my team and for my people and for lots of people that follow us and for people that want to contribute to us. So thank you for the community we've created. And most importantly, those the you guys that are part of the DeRosa extended team that are here on this call, right? Grateful for you guys. What I'm great at is I'm great at inspiring people, getting people excited and explaining super complex things like real estate investing and making it seem fairly simple. I'm great at taking something that's like this complex and making it this complex for an understanding perspective. So that's my superpower. That's something I'm glad that I have. And I'm excitable and I'm grateful I have a positive attitude because that's something that's been a ever flowing fountain inside of me of positive attitudeness that I'll be able to push out to my team. So I'm grateful for those things that are inside of me that are my superpowers. So you guys get a hold of me by just going to my website, DeRosaGroup.com, 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 or by simply picking up your cell phone and texting 66866 by getting a bunch of free stuff we have out there that are available to folks that want to join the DeRosa Group Insiders, but just texting that phone number 66866. Just to taking that, they're texting the word DeRosa, DEROSA. It's not case sensitive. To that number and joining our communities for a whopping $1 for the first month. And so that's how you get a hold of me. So Justin, thank you for coordinating this. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you to all you folks for joining us and for watching us today. Next week, Justin, do we have a board set up yet, or are we still figuring that out?
We're working on something. I think we're going to bring in some of our partners, probably. So some other partners that we work with, which would be really exciting. So
here are some possibilities for next week. Right, next week could look like a wholesalers panel. We might bring up a lenders panel. We've got a few lenders that Justin and I both work with, and do that pick brains of a bunch of lenders, right? And there's other strategic partners that we've talked about in the past that we brought to the forefront. Make sure you guys join Bigger Pockets because on Bigger Pockets on Monday, my wife Liz is going to do a Mother's Day session with many mothers, all the mamas in the world. So
very cool.
Women watching, be sure to watch Bigger Pockets Facebook Live. It's going to be on Facebook at noon Eastern. Because Liz is going to be going live with Carol Scott and Mindy Jensen and a few other people. Awesome. She's going to go live and do a live session and talk all about motherhood while you're a real estate investor. So for the women of the world, make sure to go to biggerpockets.com. And just go to Facebook with Bigger Pockets, and just watch the live session that my wife Liz is going to be doing. So that's it. Gates, by the way, I'm going to give Gates a shout out. Gates had the courage to announce that they just joined our insiders group for $1 by texting DeRosa to 66866. Gates, thank you. I know you joined us. I look forward to greeting you on the group. And Justin, one more thing. Can you reach out to Andrew Jackson, Justin? And perhaps put your email address on here to Andrew Jackson. Absolutely. Or whatever it is. I want to put out to Andrew Jackson. If you're still watching, or if you're watching the recording or whatever, I want to put out to Andrew Jackson that's watching. We want to review your deal on our YouTube page. We're going to do a deep dive on your deal called the DeRosa Deep Dive, and we're going to deep dive your deal. And typically, it's only offered to insiders, but we want to offer that up to you. So we spend like a half an hour going deep dive into your deal and find a way to profitability. We do not want to let you fail. We want to make you successful. So Andrew Jackson, if you can make sure you get connected to Justin Fraser, I want to help you out. I know you got a deal. I know it's hot. We want to help you. Okay. So please reach out to Justin Fraser if you haven't already. And we want to bring you on to the DeRosa people. Okay. Justin, anything more on that? That's not right, Justin. I know you've been wanting.
Andrew, send me a message and we'll chat and we'll get you set up and we'll answer all your questions and more. So we also, guys, there was a few questions that came in through James Wilcox and a few others here that we didn't even get to. 2 hours and 20 minutes and we still didn't get to all the questions. So we are going to definitely address those on future happy hours, or we're going to bring it right into Insiders and check it out there. So James Wilcox, please post your questions on Insiders. We are going to answer those this week. I have a special guest literally just showed up here. So wave to everybody. There you go, good boy. And so with that, I think we got to go. I think it's bedtime here. But we'll answer everyone's stuff on Insiders. And thank you guys. This is an awesome happy hour, and I hope to have you guys on my show and on Insiders. We're going to interview all of you guys one-on-one. Herve's already done it.
Great time.
Cool. Awesome stuff. Kevin, Justin, we lost your audio for a second there. You there? Cool. So Herve, Kevin, Matt, Dave, and Justin, thank you guys. You guys are the best. I'm grateful to have you guys as my team members. We've got an enormous future in front of us. I'm grateful for our audience here for watching. Have a phenomenal weekend. And once again, pick up your cell phone and text the word DeRosa to 66866 to complete your weekend, and we will take it from there. Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, guys. Nice weekend. Yeah. Good. Stay safe.